It's Friday morning and you're welcome to OTBAM. It's Adrian with you as always on a Friday, and I'm delighted to say we have a cast of thousands in the studio this morning. Eoin, Sheahan as always, but our favourite guest is back, Kenny Cunningham. Good morning to you.
Favourite guest of the morning.
Absolutely.
And only guest.
The only one we've ever had on the studio on a Friday, Kenny. That's true.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's a lie, but I mean, we do love having you in.
Little lies.
How's the form?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, amazing week so far, and it's still not ended, obviously.
Yeah, not much to talk about this morning, obviously.
Where would we be without football? Seriously, I know it's a cliche, but...
Well, we'd have Conor McGregor to talk about. We'd have Sergio's collapse. We'd have Tiger's return. We'd have Jordan Spieth being a genius.
Yeah, I know, but honest to God, it's the classic old end of season. Oh, it's so much football, but within a week of the season, last summer in particular, I remember, within about 10 days of the season ending, it was literally kind of...
Yeah, what are we going to do?
It's going to be a long summer.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, at least we have the World Cup to... Oh, no, yeah.
Well, yeah, nothing. No, I must admit, I will get fired up for the World Cup when it comes around, but I think on the Champions, at this stage of the season, Champions League, kind of quarter-finals, like you say, even Masters now coming around this stage of the season, the big golf tournaments as well, leading into the summer, US Open, British Open, Irish Open, the golf, I mean, you know what I mean? It's, in terms of sports...
But what I always say is around this time of year in the football season, it makes you appreciate this grotesque capitalism that people always give out about. That it's like we wouldn't have this unless there was this really kind of sick obsession with money and finance and ultimately great teams being formed just by pure financial strength.
I don't know. I'm not sure I quite buy into that. I mean, the competition will still be there in terms of the Champions League, whatever format you want to use. Would the best players will still be around playing their football? They just be earning significantly less. In terms of the razzmatazz around how it's kind of packaged up and thrown at us, it'd be entirely different. But fundamentally, the game would still be the same, and I'd still be watching. Personally, if I had a chance, I'd be rolling the clock back. Don't worry about that. I'll be demolishing all these new all-theatre stadiums, getting away from that.
Really?
That Olympic Stadium would be gone. It'd be absolutely flattened and packaged away. You know, I'd have West Ham back to Upton Park in a heartbeat, to be honest with you. I'd knock down the Aldi or whatever they have, the Spar supermarket that's going up there at the moment. And without a doubt, it's never going to happen, of course. But
is that what's going up there, a supermarket?
I'd imagine. I think there's a bit of some housing going up. There's a bit of, from what I've heard, like, you know, it's a shame because I've passed by that a couple of times, and I'm no way. I'll be my allegiance will be to Millwall, like sworn enemies in terms of West Ham. Like, but I do know a couple of West Ham supporters. A lot of them around where I live, and absolutely like heartbroken in terms of almost the reality. They've almost woken up to what's happened a year or so down the road, that they've actually left Upton Park. And I think it's the sober reality of what the hell have we done here? Not that they had a choice anyway. They were going anyway. I mean, this kind of been thrown out there that the supporters made the decision to kind of go to the Olympic Stadium, and, you know, almost as if there was a vote and it was some kind of referendum. That was never going to be the case. That's where they were heading. That's where the money was to be made from the ownership. So they didn't have a choice in it. But I think if they could go back, I think they'd be, and do it again, they'd be marching on the streets down in East London and preventing this move from happening, because absolutely ripped the soul out of the football club, and they're not the only ones. No, and it's a shame for me. For me, it's too high a price in terms of what you were talking about. That capital, it's been too high a price that's been paid in terms of leaving your old stadiums behind and kind of moving on. You know, something bigger and better for me. Maybe bigger, all right, but certainly hasn't been better for a lot of clubs. Yeah,
interesting that they wouldn't. You know, Highbury, when it was redone, they built apartments on it. They kept the pitch, or the vast majority of the pitch.
I know, you see pictures of it. It's,
or the actual.
Like, it keeps. I think it's easier for fans to detach themselves from a club when that's the case, you know what I mean? Like, they've respectfully dealt with the old stadium. Like, if they're building a... Let's not name any supermarkets.
Yeah, that's weird, though, because I was looking at, remember, an aerial view of the actual Highbury, because, like you say, apartments, there's a few little... And I was looking at in terms of, I was thinking, there's a broccoli patch down there where I took down Freddie Lumber, got sent off for my last game at Highbury on the edge of the box. So I was literally visually, like, looking down at the area, where did that actually happen, like, you know? And it's weird, because a lot of them have been, like you say, bulldozed, and they've gone. You know what I mean? And a generation later, people forget. Well, Highbury, where was that? I was across the road, son. Yeah, it was a great. Where, like you say, Dave, it was a listed building, wasn't it? Highbury. So
outside it looks quite similar from outside now. It still looks like Highbury. Like, it's.
I'm not sure if that's worse. That's
no, Kenny, that's class. That's a touch of class. Arsenal are a touch of class. You know that?
I don't know. I think that hurt me even more. Like, you know what I mean? That's like opening an old wound again. Like, having to walk past that every week, because the Emirates, like, even the Emirates, I mean, pretty soulless place at times, the Emirates. Like, it's all
but
great.
It takes a while to build up that heritage too. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, but you say it takes a while. What it's going to take? It's going to take the old support base to die off base. That's what it's going to take. And those new generation people with no memory, no recollection of the old. You know what I mean?
I haven't got that emotional. Give it 50 years.
We won't be having this conversation in 50 years. I know that.
The thing is, though, I guess it is quite local, the Emirates, in relation to Highbury, whereas West Ham, they essentially picked up a football club and moved it miles away, and you don't actually have that sort of same sense of locality, I guess. And
it's everything on, I think, as well. It's not just that. It's in terms of, you know your routine on a weekend, generally speaking, but dads, kids, grandparents meet up at the same station together, same people, they have a drink before they get into the plane, get there, little calves, same crowd of people, like, you know what I mean? Just those old habits, something which you enjoy, you kind of look forward to, same people around you in the stadium, which is totally, you get dispersed to new stadiums, you're miles apart, like the all seat or the whole thing. Like, it'd be interesting to see potentially going forward how the terracing aspect of it looks as if I think potentially it's got. Yeah, I think it's the right time, to be honest with you. I know it's a sensitive subject and for obvious reasons, but I think potentially that could be a way forward in terms of generating a bit more atmosphere inside the stadiums. Like I think it's important. I think it's something which I sense underneath it as supporters want, and certainly in a portion of the stadium. But I think it'll be the right thing. The technology now available inside stadiums that they have, you know what I mean? It should be a case. I think it would be a safe space for people going forward, and I think football stadiums are badly needed. So although I'm talking about not turning the clock back in that particular instance, I think potentially it will be a good thing.
To learn from the future, or learn from the past rather than return to the past, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, of course, learn from the obvious mistakes of the past, but I think we're beyond that now. It's interesting. I know some of the Liverpool supporters clubs and support base, they've been going around different stadiums, like around Europe, and they've been bringing them and showing them how things operate, and just in terms of even at Anfield, for obvious reasons, how sensitive that issue is. But I think even there, they're looking at the potential going forward of introducing that for the reasons that we've spoken about. So I think that certainly would help, because the atmosphere, that kind of dynamic between home and away supporters inside the stadium is absolutely huge, and even the home support base, wherever it is behind the goal, wherever area of the stadium that it is, that's been huge, like in terms of kind of the atmosphere inside the stadium, and fans have absolutely loved that, whether it's been Premier League, Championship, whatever level you're at. You know what I mean? Going and getting behind your team, being vocal, generating that kind of atmosphere inside the stadium has always been a huge part of the game for people. So, yeah, I think we'll see a little bit of a return to that, and I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's maybe the post sort of big business era that we've seen over the last while, with moves to sort of soulless stadiums like that. So we'll see how that pans out. I know you've been exercised about the golf as well, so we're going to get your thoughts on that in just a few minutes, Kenny. I know you're.
I've had my little bets.
You've had a bit of a nibble on Sergio's, what you've been telling us over the last. So we'll get Kenny's thoughts on all of that, because we are going to talk golf in just a little bit. We're going to be joined on the line by Dermot, Gillece, and John Duggan as well is going to join us in the studio to get into all of that good stuff. Plenty to talk about from day one of the US Masters at Augusta National. So we're going to do all of that for you at when does that crop up there? 20 to 9 is the time we've slotted in for that. So we'll probably get to it about 10 past 9 at the rate we normally go of a Friday morning. We're going to get stuck into the back pages in just a few minutes. Conor McGregor's been up to some stuff in New York overnight. I'm sure you might have caught wind of that. We're going to speak with Niall McGrath of Off the Ball and of Severe MMA, who's in New York to cover UFC 223, and he's going to bring us the very latest, because there has been some developments there in terms of a potential charges being brought against Conor McGregor. So we'll bring you all of that in just a few minutes' time. We're going to talk football with Kenny Cunningham. It's been a pretty interesting week as well in the Champions League, and a couple of big derbies to look ahead to over the weekend. So they're to come, and Kenny's thoughts on that very shortly indeed. And then Eoin is going to round us off with a chat with Ciara Neville that he's done during the week. So that's all to come on Off the Ball between now and 9 o'clock. But now we're going to take a look at the back pages.
OTB AM. In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.
It's golf really dominating the back pages this morning, as you'd expect. A very, very eventful first day at Augusta yesterday, and the Irish Independent are leading with the Jordan Spieth angle. Spieth takes Route 66 to storm into early lead. Of course, shooting that 66, which was an unbelievable performance, robotic once again from Jordan Spieth. And every time he does this, you're like to yourself, why haven't I put 20 quid in this guy to win the Masters?
It wasn't without its blemishes, though, is the only thing. There was at least, there might have been 4 holes that he bogeyed, which, I mean, if you're the rest of the field, you're kind of thinking maybe there's a bit of a hope here.
True, but then he goes on that 5 birdie in a row run, and it's just the putter's on fire yet again with Jordan Spieth. And because he's so good on the dance floor, I don't think people give him enough credit in terms of his iron work, which was so key yesterday, which let a lot of big players down. One of those big players, Sergio Garcia, unlucky 13 on the front of the Irish Examiner. Reigning champion Garcia suffers Masters meltdown, taking 13 shots at the 15th at Augusta. And God, it's like, we've all been there. You don't expect Sergio to be there. You don't expect any person who's got a green jacket to ever be there. And I guess he was...
Well, Spieth had a similar... I mean, it's not too long ago, Spieth on the par 3 12th.
Was that 2 years ago?
It was a similar situation, though, wasn't it? Yeah. And I take a point what you're saying now about in terms of this is ridiculous. Like, how can you have a tour thing? So I heard the score. Obviously, I was working last night on the Arsenal game with Sheahan stuff. So this came through at some point in terms of the score. And immediately I thought, he's lost it. He can be a bit temperamental, a bit emotional. Garcia get down very easily. I thought it's one of them. He's hit it in the water and he's just chucked it. Mentally, he's just lost it. You know, that can happen, particularly maybe with him. But when I got back to the hotel, we were watching the highlights last night, they actually dropped it in at some stage in terms of the coverage and showed his shots. Like I said to you before, I didn't see him hit a bad shot. 5 times he hit it in the water. And I've got to be honest, every time it landed on the green, I thought, oh, good shot. Before now, I know we're going to have an argument about this. I know what you're probably going to say. Go on, say. I'll let you say. I won't put words in your mouth.
It's not a good shot if you've made the exact same shot 5 times in a row.
But it was a different shot, wasn't it?
But you made the point. Why didn't he take his punishment, wasn't it? In terms of like throw it, yeah. But I think once you make that, once he puts it into the water twice, you're chasing your tail. It's almost if you feel obligated. Now I have to gamble that little bit more now.
Ego almost.
No, I don't think so. Even almost to rectify the situation, it's damage. It's damage limitation. Then I think once you make the decision, he's dropped into the water once and drops it again. I think once he decides, now it's a natural thing, isn't it? I can get this down in 2. Yeah. I can limit the damage.
Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's right.
That's why these people think that. But this is why they operate at the highest level. They don't think, oh, well, I'll take that 2-3 shot kind of penalty. They think, no, I can get away with one.
Not at Augusta,
it's like Spieth. What about Spieth on the 18th? I looked at him. He was on the end of the fairway after his 4th shot. I don't know where he went. He must have gone into the trees.
Yeah, he was in the trees after his 3rd shot.
Yeah. No, I was looking at that and I was talking to Shay thinking, all he's got to do is get a 7er now. Just get this up the fairway, 50 yards short of the green, chip on 3 and just take similar thing, take your punishment. But he gets it was a fairway wood out, has this swing and I'm thinking, what's he doing first round? There's no reason to take this type of risk, like, but that's the way they think. Yeah. That's what they think nowadays, especially young players in particular. Like they don't think that kind of positive imagery that they have in their heads. Don't let any of those kind of negative thoughts.
Sergio is one of the players who now, like, nobody knows how he reacts. Well, until yesterday, post winning a major, but like he definitely was one of those players who, for years, I think, was just getting in his own way. Like that was the reason that he wasn't. He definitely had the talent. And that was the reason he wasn't winning majors or winning enough tournaments, was that he was getting in his own way. His own negative attitude ultimately was making him lose this stuff. But I don't know, because it's interesting. I like, if that's you on the golf course, right? If that's you tipping around Cabinteely golf course or wherever it is you play, Essex National, whatever it's called.
I'm in forced retirement from. I haven't touched the golf club in a couple of years for those kind of reasons. Just absolutely joking.
So what happens if that's you? If you hit a decent shot, it goes up and it trickles into the water, are you reloading?
Particularly when he's he's under that particular hole, what you usually generally, you pick a yards in terms of, it's usually 15, 20 foot beyond the pin, a little bit of check, you come back towards that. That's kind of the ideal shot, isn't it? In terms
not
of
on this hole though.
Reasonably close. Well, yeah.
Once you put backspin on it, then you're giving yourself no hope whatsoever if you're going 15, 20 yards beyond the pin.
A certain amount. You can't put enough welly on that actually, revs back into the water. But if you're looking to actually get it close and actually make a birdie, which most of them are, when you kind of lay up as he did initially, you've got a wedge in your hand, you're looking to hit it 15, 20, just a little bit of check on it, just to encourage you, just to like almost, just encourage you back towards the hole. And he's probably only about 5-10 feet out in terms of where he actually pitched the ball. So you're saying, why did he keep doing the same thing? I think he meant to throw a little bit. He didn't mean to exactly land in the same spot. They did every time. He's probably looking to add an extra 5-7 foot on the actual chip. That's what he's looking for. That's the kind of detail. That's where they're actually looking to hit, isn't it?
What he said afterwards was that he could have been 2 foot further from the pin, away from the pin, and he would have been fine, or he could have been a foot closer to himself and he would have been fine. So I think he was actually trying to go for that 1 foot closer to actually land on the near side of the pin, which was a stupid tactic. Just because he's got a green jacket doesn't mean he can't not be humble approaching Augusta. It's one of the toughest golf courses in the world.
What happened is He's embarrassed himself. At a certain point in those shots, Sergio Garcia is embarrassed.
Oh yeah,
that's what's happening.
Oh yeah, still got to have that humility approach in his golf course.
So, but he's trying to chase it. Like, and Sergio is, that's Sergio. That's what he does.
But that's most. I say that's most. You're right. There's a tipping point when actual humiliation comes into it. After he's put it into the water the second time, that's it then. He knows, big stage, supporters, TV, the whole thing.
I've got to do something here that's going to...
He can't give it up. But I'm talking that after that initial one that he's put in the water, he's put his fourth shot into the water. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he's hitting his sort of initially. So he's hitting what?
Overall. No, this was...
He was hitting his third. He was hitting his third onto. So first time he's dropped it, it's 5. He's hitting 5, so he's thinking that what I'm talking about, damage limitation, chip and put
get a bogey
and I'll get out. So that's the mindset. But like you said, after does it second time, I think that comes into it then in terms of a bit of personal pride, the old humiliation, and very difficult then to step. I know what you're saying logically. I don't think that's how the mind, operates.
I think that's. I was saying to you before.
Kevin Costner, Tin Cup, exactly the same thing.
I was at the European Open at the K Club a number of years ago, and Thomas Bjorn was leading the tournament. I think he might have had a 2-shot lead, closing holes. Off the tee, puts his tee shot straight into the liffey. I was at this tournament, I was looking at it going, oh, Jesus, how's he going to react to this? And the thing is, you got to go down, take your medicine, take your drop shot at the nearest point of entry and crack on. I think he had a 2-shot lead. It actually wouldn't have impacted him. Puts the ball down, goes again, puts it back into the liffey. Does this 4 or 5 times and ends up losing the tournament. But from that day on, I've been like a Thomas Bjorn absolute super fan.
Why?
Because I just thought, fair play to him. Like, it was totally the wrong thing to do. It was something I would have done. Like,
so you're a fan because somebody's done the wrong thing?
Mates. Absolutely. He's fallible.
What sort of logic is that?
Was that mindset on? Is that mindset these
I'm drawn to fallibility on. That's why, that's why you and I are presented here now.
There's also a difference between the European Open, where the Liffey is your biggest enemy, and the Masters, where Rays Creek is your biggest enemy, and the green is like a marble floor, and the pin position is in an unbelievably tough spot.
Same kind of mentality.
But they back themselves. These lads back themselves. There's no area of... You can't have any kind of self-doubt. That's how I say it. Even when you hear these players talk... It's just a psychology. They can't allow...
Everybody on the whole that day is going, stop doing this. Go down and take your medicine. And I'm sure it was the same yesterday. But
is there not an element that it's day one as well? You've got to make it, like you're the reigning champion.
You can recover from 13 over bar, whatever it is.
Oh my God.
The back of the Times as well is going with this angle on the Masters. It's Masters misery for Sad Garcia, reads the headline here. Champion hits 5 successive shots into the water. You've got Aaron Ramsey there celebrating after presumably his wonder goal last night. Just a week of superb goals in European football, really. As we said, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of that game in a little while. It's Sergio as well on the front of the Irish Times sports section this morning. Garcia provides the cautionary tale for all. Maybe not a cautionary tale, judging by the people sitting around this table. Maybe it's a tale that you should do it over and over and over again, because you'll get fans as a result of just being stupid. No, I take that back. I'm not saying Sergio was stupid. He was just a tiny bit stubborn. And Sergio reads the back of the Irish Daily Star. Nightmare 13 floors champ Garcia. You've also got a little picture of Rory McIlroy there. 3 shots off the lead after an impressive 69 yesterday.
All right, the Irish Mirror this morning. It's football all the way here. Rambo well healed. Ramsey's wonder goal lights up Emirates as he and Lacazette give the Gunners a massive advantage. Kenny was on duty, as he said, for Air Sport last night. We got his thoughts. Liverpool's win in the Europa League last night, or certainly the advantage they've accrued. Pep, I blew it, is the other headline here at the bottom. Guardiola accepts his Sterling cock-up led to City's Anfield drubbing. So we'll get Kenny's thoughts on that and on. That is the Irish Mirror this morning in the Herald. Reds aim to spoil it for rivals. Lingard believes that United can stop City winning the title if they give focus 100%. And we'll ask Kenny a bit later if he wonders whether City are going to be at all dialed into winning the league against their nearest and bitterest rivals. We'll see. That's the Manchester Derby, of course, over the weekend. The Racing Post and the Backpage. Tiger in the pack. Woods fights back from a shaky start. And racing coverage here in the front. Noel Meade puts respect on the road to Punchestown Gold Cup. That's the Racing Post this morning. In The Guardian, it's Tiger Woods here. Tiger fails to fire. The sun was out at the turn, but Woods had not warmed up. So a lot of the coverage, as you can imagine, across the back pages is slightly behind where I would have suspected that Jordan Spieth would have been on most of the back pages today, although Tiger is going to sell you a few newspapers, it has to be said. Reflections too on Arsenal's win last night. And the Daily Telegraph then, Garcia's, this is definitely a newspaper that had gone to print before the end of play. Garcia's 13-shot horror, pretty dejected, lonely, I would say bowed Sergio Garcia. after his disaster there. Masters meltdown. It's supposed to be one every single year.
I think the consolation for him is going home and opening his bedroom locker and looking at watching that green jacket that's hanging up there. I think that'll give him a little bit of consolation. It generally does after days like that.
The other thing is that he has named his child Azalea after the famous Masters flowers, the azaleas. Obviously,
the name of the hole, I presume.
Oh, the hole, yeah, but
13th.
Okay, so that's the name of the hole, is it?
Yeah,
okay, yeah. And the azalea flower of the Masters is obviously they're obviously synonymous.
Yeah.
And the thing is that obviously he did that because it was going to remind him every day of the greatest moment of his career. And now suddenly, I mean, I'm not.
I don't think so. I don't think that'll be tarnished somewhat. You can never take that away from me.
Hey, Azalea, come in here for your dinner, and then he's like thinking about
Firethorn is the name of the 15th hole. I wonder what are the chances of him naming his second child Firethorn.
I think one of the things I look forward to the Masters is the old Champions dinner. The kind of night. I always, in terms of the menu, which the players, I'm always like, I can't wait for it. I remember Danny Willett a couple of years ago when he went back. Obviously a Yorkshire boy, isn't he? Willett, and it was all it was big pies, Yorkshire puddings, big thick onion gravy, all of this type of thing. And obviously, so I'm always trying to kind of second guess it. So I was thinking, Garcia, that'd just be interesting, bit of paella, whatever. I know he let his missus pick the dessert, which I thought was a bit of a cop out. It was more of an American style syrupy type dessert. I was very disappointed because it's usually very kind of patriotic in terms of this what I grew up on.
I was disappointed by the entire menu. The starter, you can have a look here, the starter. This is the most golf starter that's ever been invented. International effing salad.
That's a sellout.
International salad.
That's a sellout, isn't it?
Inspired by ingredients representing countries of Masters champions. Do me a favour. Like, Spanish food is some of the most beautiful food that exists. You don't need to worry yourself with an international salad.
Yeah.
Have something nice. Like a nice goat's cheese salad with a bit of beetroot and a bit of chorizo or something.
There's not nice about goat's cheese salad, I'll tell you that for a second.
Chorizo.
Oh yeah, good point.
It's like international salad, Kenny.
Yeah, I know. Even the main course, I mean, it sounds a lot. I mean, it's got to be. Is that a paella?
That's rice. Rice.
Paella is rice, isn't it? A bit of fish.
Yeah, it is. That's true.
Fish. I mean, it's kind of leaning towards that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then the dessert's a cop out as well. Like,
you look at the dessert.
I'm disappointed. Yeah, but it's like I think he let his missus choose it. Look, Angela, he mentions her name.
Cake.
Like, Lee.
I think that's a nice touch, no?
Cream and what is it? I don't even know what it is.
It's like a.
I don't even know what it is.
Like leche is milk, isn't it? So it's like sort of a caramelly ice cream type situation.
That's poor. That's a poor selection, isn't it?
Kenny Cunningham wins the Masters 2019. What's
a big cuddle. A big cuddle would have made it. That cleared the room. That would clear the room, wouldn't it? Oh my God, can you imagine?
Jack Nicklaus sits down to a bowl of cuddle.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a star. I'd bin the stars because who would stars growing up in Dublin, Ireland, in my time? If somebody put a star in front, you were like, you'd be saying that's an outrageous. It's on the main course. You'd be disgusted. You'd think that was your mate. Nobody got a star. You know what I mean?
Off.
Yeah, always save it for the dessert to be the big one. I like the
French fancy.
Now I like I'm generally more traditional in terms of apple crumble and custard, but I do like the big meringue thing with all the flavours, and they get the
Eaton mess, is it?
No, not an Eaton mess. I think there's another name for it actually. I think, funny enough, it actually had it at me wedding. Yeah, but it's that. But there's a special name for it. They really jazz it up and stuff, and all the lights, and they like big firework display. They light the thing. They light the thing. Are you going to Americanise them? No, I'm not traditional.
I'm just throwing.
I remember the name.
I'm doing I'm panicking there now, like Sergio Garcia, and just throwing random.
I was so disappointed with his selection. It's one of the highlights of the tournament for me. That menu.
So what would your dessert be?
Well, he just said
apple crumble, no currants. Right. Don't slide a few currants in there on the sly and pretend it's a traditional apple crumble.
That's more of a strudel. That's more
over the years, but it's never. I literally have to ask on the menu if it's an apple crumble. Over the years, I've learned the hard way. I literally have look. There's no currants in this apple. Yeah, by biting into it and having to chew on the currant for about 15 minutes. It is, isn't it? That's the way it's gone, isn't it?
You got to have custard with apple crumble.
If not broke, don't fix it. Seriously, if it's not broke, just leave it alone. You
got to have custard with apple crumble. It's not an ice cream dish.
Toby Carvery, when I first went up to Birmingham, we went up, myself and my missus went up, we were eating at local Toby Carvery, just a bailout, and they had like a bottomless jug custard with the apple crumble. Oh,
nice.
Heavy
on the custard.
Unbelievable.
Kenny, we want to remind you mentioned the Cabbage Patch and yourself and Freddie Lundberg. We want to give you a little bit of a reminder of that particular incident. There you go.
Now, this is one of those moments, obviously this is...
just outside the box.
Yeah, just outside the box. But it was one of those, I had a few of them around this time in my career. Do you know when you you go into a tackle and you think, generally speaking, yeah, I've got this, your toe poked away or whatever, and you start arriving a split second late.
Yeah.
I think that was my second red card. My first was Steven Gerrard, probably the same season. And it's just at that time in your career that you begin to think, you know what, this is it. That kind of transition where you're just not physically, your levels are just kind of dropping. So I remember that particular tackle, I was a little bit of embarrassment in terms of getting sent off. But you know, you can see the run, you can kind of anticipate what's going to happen, but your body just doesn't quite react quickly enough. And I remember giving away, getting sent off, and actually before I made a tackle thinking, yeah, I'm going to make this, but my body just not reacting quickly enough, you know what I mean? In terms of just getting there, the split second too slowly, getting my foot out, and just almost a tap on the shoulder.
Was that your last year then? Was that?
Yeah, I think that was the year we went down. Yeah, but just generally speaking, that's a horrible feeling when you know physically you're just not there. You know what I mean?
Did you know before that, or was that?
Yeah, like I said, before sending out was like and I was very rarely got booked. I mean, never got sent off and stuff like that. But I remember the Steven Gerrard red card at St Andrews as well. Just thinking, yeah, I'm going to get here, but just not. Your legs just not carrying you quickly enough over the. I don't know. I mean. It's just Gerrard, he could racehorse, wasn't he, type thing. But I remember like thinking, I can get there, I'm all right type thing, which is generally, well, give myself a few yards, which I generally had to do anyway, wasn't the quickest. But you know, yeah, I'll get there, that's grand, boom, boom, make that tackle, I can see. But not, your body just not in tune with your brain. Your brain's seen it, but your body's out of sync. And having to kind of fine-tune your game then because of that, having to give yourself an extra yard then in terms of covering, and having to, you know what I mean, go down that road and actually almost kind of hating yourself then, because you know that growing realisation, that's it now, I can't, and you fight against it and you're trying back in the gym and you're doing as much as you can, but that's it, your body's...
Yeah, you got to convince yourself
and that's where I was at that stage in my career, and having to kind of accept that's a tough one, that I'm not going to be able to play at the level that I want and I have done previously, and I'm going to have to modify my game and accept that. That's a tough position to be in as a footballer.
So you go into the gym, you try and get fitter, you try and get that physical level back, but you can't. So what about the other way? Can you train your mind to actually catch up with an ageing body?
No, you can't, because physically you just can't make the ground from A to B. You can't make
But coming to that realisation is surely an important thing.
It's just experience. Like then you got to modify a game, like I'm talking about. You know, you got to adjust your game accordingly and make allowances for that. But that's tough to do, and it's why when I always hear a lot of players talk about, you play for as long as you can. I always tell people, play for as long as you can. There's no way I was going to play for as long as I could. I retired at 36. I possibly could have played for another year or two to a certain level, but I couldn't, because I was hating myself. In terms of how I was playing, I wasn't enjoying it, and I just couldn't play on any longer, really. You know, and I hadn't lost interest, but just getting fed up, getting angry with myself, and just not enjoying it as much. So for me, it wasn't play as long as it.
You wouldn't have taken a step down, like in terms of the.
No, it wasn't the case if I was too good. Oh, no, I'm too good enough to play. That wasn't it. It's just the level, because my standards had dropped to such a degree. Right. I was fighting and roiling against that. I couldn't really accept. That was hard for me mentally. It was tough. I wasn't really enjoying it, so it was right for me to step back as I did. And that's why when I hear the type about play for as long as you can, I think, you know what, not for everybody. It really isn't. I play for as long as you can while you feel as if you're enjoying your football and you feel as if you're kind of making an impact. If that's all good, there's a lot of positive energy in your head, absolutely play on. And some people play till their legs go 40, whatever, and that's absolutely fine. But I certainly wasn't in that position, and that tackle there kind of sums it up, like, you know what I mean? Horrible.
Baked Alaska.
He's a good player, Freddie Lumburg. He's a good player.
Baked
Alaska, yes. Well, you were around the edges of it. Eating mess and meringue.
Yeah. A lot of people in contact to say
Alaska, sugar content.
Have you had the Ben & Jerry's Baked Alaska? They do Baked Alaska in a tub. It's quite nice.
They must do it on a donut. They do everything on a donut now. They spread everything on top of a donut. There must be a little baked Alaska number now on a donut.
Are you trying to suggest that we haven't kind of brought out all the trimmings this morning?
We used to get croissants for Kenny, and then Kenny stopped eating them, so we said, screw that, we didn't
stop eating them, we never ate.
The gesture was appreciated.
We're going to talk Conor McGregor in just a second, but Kieran Bradley, who's on our production team in the office here, says that he actually played golf behind Kenny and Shay Given, and he thinks Dean Kiley, just after the 2002 World Cup. He said he was with his uncle, and that he had to let him and his group play through.
That'd be Shay.
That'd
be Shay hacking around the place.
Struggling.
Dean was a good player.
There's a good shot of the two either. And
I look drunk there, don't I? I'm teetotal. Look, I absolutely wasted there. Look at Shay playing up to the camera. Look, that was a sign of things to come. That was at the
airport after beating Iran in the 2001 World Cup playoffs.
Oh, God, yeah. Nah, good times, obviously, yeah. I remember that there was a lot of footage on the way back. Somebody, one of those, just before social media, Eoin. But I remember we...
Owen doesn't even remember that time, Kenny.
We were towards the...
I heard there was things called
folklore.
VHSs.
It'd be folklore for you, Eoin. Like, he'd remember it. But remember, obviously, at that stage, thanks to Roy, we're down the front of the plane coming back. So the old curtains were pulled. So we were all there to get in the coast. I remember sitting alongside Niall, I think it was, and the old sing song, give us a song, Kenny. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, why not? We're going for the World Cup. Off we go. The drink was flowing, champagne. I do remember starting off a bit of a song, and it was always great with the lads. We're all together. We're our own little thing on the plane. And I do remember out of the corner of my eye, kind of peripheral vision, just noticing like a camera just sticking out, the curtain getting pulled, and somebody's like a little camera lens like poking in, thinking, here we go. And there is actually some, I don't know if they produced the DVD.
There is footage. I've seen some footage.
Yeah, I'd never watched it like myself.
Footage. There is footage of...
But that was the start of it. That was
you singing. There is footage of you singing on the plane.
Exactly, like, I mean, nowadays it'd be expected, wouldn't it, if somebody didn't take out the camera.
But at that point it was somebody with a camera on shoulder camera.
Absolutely, like, like a pole vault thing, like on their shoulder, like sticking the thing in. I remember being aware of it, thinking, here we go.
Is it on YouTube? Is it like something that we could search for right now?
I'm sure you will. But but that was
Tommy's all over that, Kenny, needless to say.
But that was a good trip home, obviously, for obvious reasons. But no, I wasn't sipping the champagne myself. I was on the orange juice. But you would think so, with the look on my face there, absolutely wasted.
Right, keep your comments coming into us. We've had loads already this morning. We're going to be talking football with Kenny very shortly. We're going to talk golf as well with Dermot, Gillece, and with John Duggan too. So all of that good stuff to come. But it is time to talk a little bit about Conor McGregor. As you probably know by now, his posse stormed the end of the UFC 223 press conference yesterday. They attacked a bus full of fighters and various members of those fighters' entourages. There's been a huge fallout from which we'll discuss in a moment with Niall McGrath, who's in New York City. But first, here's Dana White's initial reaction last night, speaking to the ESPN reporter Brett O'Makato.
Yeah, no, right now, no. Absolutely not.
What do you make of? Why? What do you make of this?
Do you want to be in business with Conor McGregor right now? Do you want to chase this guy around for interviews and buy his fights? Do you? Yeah. No, I don't think anybody is going to want to right now. No, I think everybody's going to be pretty disgusted with Conor McGregor right now. Listen, you don't like Khabib and you don't like what happened or whatever, then fight Khabib. You can come in here and you can do it legally. Shit, this fight's happening Saturday. We could have talked and made the Khabib fight right after. You could do whatever you wanted to Khabib within the limits of the rules of fighting. But you want to grab 30 fucking friends and come down here and do what you did today? It's disgusting. And I don't think anybody is going to be, huge Conor McGregor fans after this.
You know him in a way that a lot of people don't. What do you make of this?
I don't know. I don't know if he's on drugs or what his deal is, but to come and do this and act like this, and you're talking about a guy who has a baby. He just had a kid. This is how you're acting? You have a son at home. Anyway.
Do you think he can hear?
All right, some pretty interesting events unfolding in the US overnight, as I'm sure you have been hearing. So we want to discuss some of that. But first of all, to give you a little bit of a background to exactly what's going on, in case you've paid absolutely no attention to the story up until now. It involves Conor McGregor. This is in relation to UFC 223 that is taking place at the Barclays Centre in New York over the weekend. And that was the centre of the attention over the last 24, 48 hours or thereabouts. So the backstory here is that Conor McGregor is best buds with a fighter called Artem Lobov, who UFC aficionados will be very familiar with. He was on the card for UFC 223, but he had a row with another fighter, Khabib Nurmagomedov, during the week at a hotel in New York, and it's from that essentially the rest of the story has followed. So Conor McGregor, after that, arrives in New York for whatever reason, and we might be able to establish that in just a few moments, but he's given access to the Barclays Centre, and he and his entourage essentially go nuts. He throws a hand truck at the bus that's holding Khabib, amongst other fighters, and team managers and fighter managers, promotions people. A different fighter on that bus, Michael Chiesa, is hit by some flying glass as a result of something that's hit the bus, some broken glass there, and he's now been pulled from that fight due to his injuries. So Lobov gets also pulled from that card. We're sort of assuming that that's a punishment for his potential involvement in this. McGregor then after that, at some point last night, turned himself into NYPD. No charges as yet, we were told, have been filed. Dana White, in the meanwhile, had come out with some erroneous information that there had been an arrest warrant out for McGregor. It turns out that that was untrue, as far as we can tell. And we do wonder why you would do that. But we do have some information that's arrived from New York in the last little while. Adrian Finnegan, our own Adrian Finnegan of 98FM News, has been speaking with the NYPD, who've confirmed that Conor McGregor is in custody, that at about 2:30 last night, our time, he turned himself into the NYPD. Charges are pending, we're told, and the district attorney will review those charges. That process, we're told, will start at midday Irish time. So that's what's happening in the case. To discuss it a little bit more, we're joined on the line by our own Niall McGrath, who's in New York covering this for Severe MMA. Good morning to you, Niall, or good night.
Yeah, I don't know what time it is, lads, to be honest with you. At this rate, I've been up for the last couple of days, but I hope you're well. Let's
strip this back a little bit. What was Conor McGregor doing in New York?
Well, yeah, he was always going to come over for this fight. Artem's been a long stable mate of his. They've cornered each other over the years. The word I got from Artem, I was actually on the same flight as Artem coming over on Tuesday, and it looked likely that he was going to be arriving in on Saturday. I don't think the UFC expected to come in as early as he did come in. So it's very interesting that he did come in after the incident, as you mentioned there, went down on Tuesday when Artem arrived. Obviously that altercation, as you mentioned, with Khabib Nurmagomedov in the hotel. 9 fighters to 10 fighters surrounded Artem when he arrived in the hotel from Khabib's camp. And Khabib and Conor have had a long-running history of dislike on social media. And, obviously the narrative is, Conor's getting stripped of the title. Khabib is potentially going to win that lightweight title on Saturday night. So it all stems from that. There's been a big history. But, you can't condone the actions of today. It was absolutely disgraceful behaviour from Conor and the rest of the guys involved in the incident.
So what you're saying is there is some sort of, albeit maybe slightly peripheral, history between Khabib and Lobov?
Well, I'm not sure what was said. Effectively, Artem was supposed to be doing some media, as far as I'm aware, with certain outlets over the past 2 days, and they were cancelled. So, I don't think anyone knows what was said in that altercation between Artem and Khabib. But, I asked Khabib that today in the media scrum. Khabib said, I don't know what happened, completely brushed it off. But, he obviously knew what happened. So it's something the UFC, Khabib and Artem are obviously not willing to talk about. And we've seen the reaction today, which was horrific, to say the least.
I guess people are trying to figure out, and I'm definitely including myself in this, whether this is more WWE than real life. What's your take on it?
No, it's not. As far as I'm aware, Dana mentioned it earlier on that, there was someone that let the entourage into the arena, and I believe that very much to be the case from what I've learned. You can't script things like that, especially when, fighters are getting injured. We've seen this evening, obviously, Anthony Pettis and Michael Chiesa's fight fall off. Michael Chiesa was in the hospital. He sustained a few cuts on his head. And that time he needed to cut weight. He wouldn't have been able to make the limit of 155 pounds for, what time is it here now? It's 2 a.m. So that's like 11 a.m. is the limit. The weigh-ins are on from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. here local time. So that fight was offered at a catch weight. Pettis' team didn't accept. So that fight's off. And obviously Ray Borg got his eye injured from the glass also. That fight's off, and then Artem was removed from the card as well. So effectively, from this melee, we've had 3 fights fall off the card. And I'll tell you what, I was speaking to a number of fighters and coaches as well. One of them actually being in the Pettis camp, Duke Rufus, and they're not particularly happy with the whole situation. Obviously, Anthony's a former UFC lightweight champion. Really wanted this fight to try and get himself back up the ranks. There's a lot of very unhappy fighters, coaches in the hotel down the road in Brooklyn.
Yeah, so, from McGregor's point of view, Niall, this is obviously the latest in a long line of things. There was the Bellator attack going back the way, there was the homophobic slur, there were other incidents along the way, the incident at the Dublin pub. This is obviously the latest of them, and So there's an infinite number of questions that follow after that, but are we approaching the end? Is this the end of McGregor's relationship with the UFC, for example?
Well, listen, you can't rely on what Dana White says, and I think, Dana's gone back on his words time and time again, so he's not the best man to come out and say things. He could change his mind tomorrow. But for me, and the reaction I've seen today amongst the community here, having spoken to some of the fighters and coaches, I think they're definitely going to make a stand, and I think they're not going to want Conor McGregor to stick around the UFC after the behaviour today. So I think the relationship might have become untenable here with Conor McGregor in the UFC.
Yeah, just looking around at the coverage of this, Niall, this morning, it's the lead story on ESPN this morning, despite the fact that ESPN have the coverage of the Masters. They're leading with this McGregor story, and it is quite possibly the biggest McGregor story since the Floyd Mayweather fight itself. So you start to look at the different parties involved in this, and the people who are going to survive undoubtedly are the likes of Khabib, and his profile has been it's hugely enhanced as a result of this. Maybe not enhanced, but certainly it's a lot larger than it previously was. He has now penetrated the non-mixed martial arts audience. Everybody knows Khabib's name now, if they didn't already know it. So this is almost a win for Dana White, despite the fact that he's coming down hard on Conor McGregor. He must be rubbing his hands.
Yeah, I think we've seen it over the last number of months. Their interim champion, Tony Ferguson, who unfortunately got ruled out of the fight last week. Dana very much played the Khabib card in the build-up to this fight. It was evident the UFC wanted Khabib to win and do the business over Tony. Tony was sort of pushed aside, dismissed by Dana White publicly, which I thought was absolutely pathetic and disgraceful. And you look at a guy like Khabib, Russia, huge country, massive following in mixed martial arts. The feud between him and Conor, obviously on social media, has gained him a lot of popularity. But I think it's his brashness, his attitude, the way he fights, his style. The UFC, Conor McGregor's, tenure, his fighting time has been very limited over the last number of years. So they have to produce these new stars. And I think Khabib is very much the guy they're putting their money in.
Yeah, so that leads me to question, why has Conor McGregor got involved with this? We all know that he's not a complete idiot when it comes to hype. He knows exactly how to run a machine when it comes to hype, and he knows exactly that he's pouring fuel into the profile of Khabib here. So why is he doing that when he knows that he's essentially just taking the pie and allowing Khabib to share some of it?
Well, there was talk all week here of that fight potentially happening actually in December here in New York, Khabib and Conor. But I just don't think there's any way back after this. Especially with the police getting involved now. What Dana said, and I know Dana changed his mind, as I've said, but it's just gone too far at this rate. We've had incident after incident after incident. And I don't think the community here, as I said to you, are going to be willing to accept that behaviour anymore. There's a lot of unrest around Brooklyn here tonight amongst the MMA community that are here in Brooklyn. And I just think, as I said earlier on, I think it's becoming untenable. I'm not so sure how long Conor McGregor is going to hang around the UFC for.
All right. Niall, that bed looks like it could do with a bit of sleeping in, so get some kip before you. Another full day of coverage, I'm sure, for you tomorrow when you wake up the other side on Friday, New York time. Thanks a million for joining us.
No problem, lads. Appreciate it. Take care.
Yeah, good stuff there from Niall McGrath, who hopefully is asleep at this point. We just recorded that just before we came on. There has, of course, you may be surprised with this, been a lot of support for Conor McGregor as a result of what's happened over the last couple of days. A lot of people coming out, a lot of people feeling very empowered by this. We'll run you down through a few of the tweets that we stumbled upon when we searched Conor McGregor's name on Twitter. Here is George Panterov, who says, I was never a big Conor McGregor fan until today. I got to say, this is loyalty, risking his own fame and fortune to stand up for one of his own. That deserves respect, no matter what the bureaucrats / journos say.
Pesky journos, Kenny.
You lot.
Nothing.
Bosh. Straight at you, you two. Take it.
Pesky
Take
journos.
it.
Nothing says respect like taking a hand truck and throwing it at a bus and injuring people inside the bus, does it?
It's somebody else's fault. Like that's the short story here, isn't it? I mean, it's like Trump sort of style. It's not my fault. Like that, I've done all these things. You're talking about them, so you must have something to do with it.
Yeah. Miguel Gonzo says, many are saying Conor McGregor has snapped. All I saw was the most loyal friend ever. Day before Khabib's team, 10 plus, cornered Conor's sparring partner / friend, bullied and slapped the guy. Conor flew to NY from Ireland to put a beating on Khabib and team after UFC did nothing. Yeah, because that is exactly what happened, Miguel. Nothing else happened at all. Nothing at all. Coys, COYS, come on you Spurs, I presume, says, if you wouldn't pull a Conor McGregor and jump on a jet with 20 of the boys to have my back, I don't want you in my circle. Well, I guess that's very unfortunate, Coys. I guess I won't be in your friend circle anytime soon, which is a real shame. I really wanted to become your friend. Megan Rogers on Twitter says, Conor McGregor flew from Ireland to New York just to confront Khabib and his loser friends for harassing his teammate. Literally flew across the Atlantic Ocean to beat someone's ass for his friend. That's a notorious MMA. Want to be pals. Sorry, you're clearly a very inspirational person there. I'm surprised you actually need any more pals, but hopefully Conor will respond to your tweet there, and indeed you do become friends. Mike Headley says, if they arrest Conor McGregor, the whole country of Ireland is coming back to take him back. Unfortunately, I think I'm busy that day when Ireland is going over to take Conor McGregor back. Dane Gibson says, Artem, Khabib threatened me and says he's going to fuck you up as well. Conor McGregor says, getting fight over tomorrow morning and we'll effing wreck the joint. Laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. Everyone crying about this is just upset they don't have a mate that would do that for them. Laughing emoji. Yeah, I'm clearly very, very jealous of your friendship situation and the friends that you possess. I clearly don't have any friends like that can do that for me. So jealousy is the main emotion.
You don't know, and you don't. The point about it is you don't know until that moment in Tralee where you need somebody to fly down and be by your side.
Cologne. Get into was that German city that?
No, Hamburg.
Oh, Hamburg. Yeah, get yourself into a bit sticky situation. Hamburg as people do.
Kenny be on the first flight.
First Ryanair, as long as it wasn't too pricey. Anything under €50. Anything under €50, bang, I'm there. Luggage allowance, obviously, that factor there in as well.
A few comments coming into this in the back of that conversation. Touch of class is the couple of sentiments from a few different people here, including the Jessica Fletcher fan club. Kenny, I don't know, are you a member of the Jessica Fletcher Murder She Wrote?
Oh, I was more in the afternoon. Clumbo. Yeah. I was more Clumbo, Peter Falk in the afternoon.
Just one more thing.
Yeah, it was Clumbo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was more thing. Is that it?
That's what you used to always say he'd be.
Oh, yeah, the finger went up.
He just turned around at the last minute and go, just one more thing, and then he didn't lock the whole case.
Good shout.
Angela Lansbury lived in Cork for a while, just a bit of information for you there. Shane O'Connor says, lads, let's be honest about what happened. Dana White realised that the UFC had started to fall off the mainstream media radar, so he ran to the top of UFC towers, shone his Conor McGregor-shaped bat signal into the sky, and waited with bated breath for the stupid to ensue. It's this generation's WWE.
Doesn't sound as if two people are getting too upset in terms of what you've read out there. Obviously a lot of support. I'm not sure if that's a genuine cross-section of how people feel, but not too people. You're getting quite wound up yourself, Eoin, clearly, when I'm listening to you, but not too many other people. Genuine bit of support from McGregor, and some people, taking it as a bit of a funny, and kind of running with it, but doesn't seem to me that initial kind of, this is outrageous, this is a disgrace. I haven't heard a huge amount of that as yet. I think
he's done. I mean, what he's done is he shouldn't have done what he's done. It's pretty shocking behaviour. He's done worse things, though. Is the thing.
But that's what's driving him. I couldn't get my head around this last night. The lads were throwing a few bits. I couldn't quite get a grasp of it. They're obviously listening to you and just a bit more of a feel for it this morning. I mean, if that's genuinely what's drove him, he's got a tight relationship with this fella like Artem, and he feels as if, you know what I mean? He needs to be there to offer some kind of support, and that's what's driving. That's where it's coming from inside him. It's not about, this is an opportunity for me to kind of promote myself and grab the headlines type. If that's genuinely what's driving why he's jumped on a plane and got over there. In terms of throwing the stuff at the coach, obviously there's no argument about that. But if that's it, if it's his case, I need to show a bit. I need to be there to support me. I'm not happy with it. You know what I mean? In some respect, I think
there is another option. If that's your driving force, you pick up the phone or you fly to New York and you go to your mate Artem Labov. I'm with you, man. I've got your back here. We're in this together. Let's go out and show them in the ring this weekend. We'll get this guy in the ring in the octagon. This is what we'll do. There is another option. It's not like either I'll be disloyal or I'll fly to New York and I'll try to kick the shit out of a bunch of people and throw a hand truck at a bus.
Clearly that's where he's stepped out alone. But that's what I'm saying. If you're saying to me, if that's what's driving him to get on the plane and get over there, certainly, you should have handled it differently. But if that's what it is, to a certain extent, I have a bit of sympathy with those people who are saying, yeah, fair play. That's a great thing for someone like a friend or whatever, like, you know what I mean? I've got your back type thing. We all know what that is, you know what I mean? Maybe not in these particular circumstances, but yeah, to obviously go down to the stadium and did what he did. He's crossed the line there, and he's going to have to suffer the consequences of it, like. But he can't imagine that. I don't know what's in his head running over to that coach. You know, he's obviously going to pick up something. He's in his head, I'll throw this, bounces off the wall a little bit. The fact that we've all been there, not been there in this situation, but you know, in your head you think, oh yeah, this is going to go down great, and all of a sudden, whoosh, the window's gone in. Oh, this has gone pear-shaped, and what's going on?
But it wasn't like he picked up a football and he picked up a hand truck. By the way, I don't know how he picked up a hand truck.
That's pretty impressive, boy.
He picked up a hand truck and flung it at a bus. Yeah, I think he's expecting some shattered glass.
Yeah, but once he's committed himself, that could have been anything. He's run down what's here available.
One of the other things he picked up was like a crowd barrier, a huge big metal crowd sort of hold back the crowd barrier.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you totally, like, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to, difficult to get inside the head of somebody at that particular moment, but...
One last comment on Shlomo Ben Gershon on Facebook says he's gone too far this time, trying to grab headlines anyway he can. So keep your comments coming into us. There's loads on that note. As I said, there does tend to be a pretty big diversity of reaction to this. Either it's stop bagging at Conor McGregor, he's done absolutely nothing wrong and it's the media's fault. Why are you talking about this? It's not a sports story. And then you get he's flipped out and he's gone too far comments, but whatever they are, we want to hear them and we'll bring them to air, so keep them coming in. It's just gone 8:35 on this Friday morning. Delighted to have you with us. We've one very important piece of breaking news to bring your way, and we're going to do that just now. It's just developing on Twitter in the last few minutes. It's from our very own Kevin Kilban, who says he's just got this new Forbes and Lewis bag. I mean, it does appear to be a lady's handbag. Looking forward to getting on my travels with it.
That's not man bag. That coming to the
I mean, I have a man bag. And it doesn't look like that.
He's never going to get his crutches into that bag.
It's a freebie, obviously, Kenny, isn't it? It's a freebie.
Those crutches he's on at the moment. That's not a good look at the moment. He's hobbling around.
Well, we've had a bunch of very interesting replies to it here. Lee Carsley is one of them, wondering if Kev is all right. And I mean, I think we should maybe try and make contact with him and just make sure he is okay.
The replies are brilliant for anybody who is on Twitter to actually check out that.
Dan Walker's up there saying, I'm saving this tweet forever, Kevin. I mean, that's not a bad idea. James Downey. My wife has one in brown, says James Downey.
Forbes and Lewis. What's Forbes? Is that a brand name? Is that quite impressive? Should I be impressed by that? John Lewis heard about.
Alan Reynolds says, how exciting. Do they make them for men? I think
yeah.
He's surely been hacked, says Aaron Reddington.
There's a lot of slam dunks happening there. The ball was just thrown up.
How big is that? It's difficult. What's the dimensions of that? Are we talking like little number on your shoulder? Like you see if you'd...
Hefty enough one, I'd say, on your shoulder, yeah.
I mean, he likes a little... I know he does like a beauty product on occasion, Kev, but that's a big owl... It's a big lump of a bag, isn't it?
It's as big as you can get away with, I'd say, in cabin luggage. It'd be very handy, though, for his first-class Aer Lingus trips back from Manchester to Dublin every week.
Forbes and Lewis producing leather and canvas goods for everyday carry where look, function and style are essential.
Look, we're laughing. We're clearly jealous. If it was me, I would be doing the same thing. And you know what? Like, I would take the free bag.
Yeah, I'll be going through Dublin Airport. You'd get a few packets of kind of cows, Chris. I'm thinking Lily O'Brien's. You'd pack that suitcase out, wouldn't you? With a lot of gear going through Dublin Airport.
You would, yeah. You'd pack up fairly quickly with Lily O'Brien's and Keogh's, Chris, for sure, yeah.
No, fair play.
You don't have a man bag, Kenny. I'm taking it.
Well, I struggle with the multi-packs, the whatever's, the O'Donnell's or whatever, Keogh's that going through because they're in terms of, there's not only so many, it's the air pockets in them, isn't it? Yeah. They're a bit of a nuisance, 2-3 max in terms of my little carry-on case.
We should open them.
And then last time one of them burst. You know, you're trying to force that third one in there. The thing burst. I didn't read it. By the time I got home, crisps everywhere. The dog was in the suitcase. It was everything. It was an absolute mess.
Kev, what are you doing?
Yeah, so fair play to him. Oh, he's there.
What are you doing?
It's a sellout, isn't it?
What are you doing?
He's saying that's. I've just been watching the show this morning. Good show. He's saying that's a woman's handbag.
Well, okay.
No, Kev. No. Those words are coming out.
Cheers, Ken.
James Downey says, my wife has one in brown. Take from that what you want.
Oh, no. I saw that one, yeah. I got a little bit of stick from Carzo as well. Carzo was quickly onto me as well, so there you go.
What are you doing? What's the freebie, was it?
I think it looks all right.
Oh, no. I paid a lot of money for that. Good money for that, Adrian.
No chance.
You were paid good money for that. Is that what you said? More likely.
And where are you going on your travels? What's this like? Is this? I mean, the one thing I would say about you, Kev, you normally, with your social media activity that you're trying to get stuff under the radar, you normally do quite a good job on it in terms of sliding it under the radar a little bit. This one is like one of the most blatant things you've ever done.
I know. I'm just there for people, Adrian. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. As soon as Dan Walker tweets you, that's when you know he's got about bloody 2 million followers. So that's it. I'm gone now.
It's all kicked off.
He's gone. He's gone global with. He's gone global.
Well, listen,
yeah, and I'm just getting a reply from Nathan Murphy's on as well. And Nathan Murphy's even replying to that.
Nathan's probably just gutted that he hasn't got one of his own, I would think. Do you want to hang around for a few minutes to talk about the football?
Yeah, grand.
Good man. I mean, I don't know if that was your initial intention by putting up the handbag. You knew you were going to get the attention.
No, it wasn't.
You knew we were going to call you. You knew that Kenny was in the studio.
Ked's looking too smart. Ked's looking too... What's it, 20 to 9 in the morning? He's got a crisp shirt on, jumper.
Fenchurch.
Have you got a pair of baggy tracksuit... You've got a pair of baggy tracksuit bottoms on there. You have, haven't you? There's no way you've got a pair of smart jeans on there as well.
Nice little bit of branding on the jumper as well, Kenny.
20 to 9 in the morning. Nobody gets dressed like that in their house, do they?
But do you know what it is, Ken? No, I've had a flight at 6:30 this morning. I'm back into Manchester. That's how it's gone.
Oh, right, gotcha. Oh, that explains it. Yeah.
He's different gravy, is that fella? Right, let's talk about the football. Keep your comments coming into us, by the way, whether they're abuse aimed at Kevin Kilbane. We'll happily take those. Hashtag OTBAM or on the Facebook page or on the YouTube channel. Where things tend to get a little bit fruity. Keep your comments coming into us. We're going to talk football for the next 10 or 12 minutes or thereabouts. And first of all, can you get your take? You were on air sport duty, as you said, with Shay last night. You were watching Arsenal, who are pretty much through to the next phase. What was your hot take on Arsenal last night?
No, they played well. I spoke before the game and said, look, I just feel it's a strange thing to say, but I just felt as if Arsenal needed to spark their season alive again, just in terms of the atmosphere around the stadium. They've got a bit of discontent. And I just felt the players themselves, in terms of putting on a real kind of high energy performance and play the type of football that we haven't seen them play previously, just in terms of pulling the whole kind of club together in terms of what's left from between now and the end of the season, obviously Europa League in particular. And I thought they'd done that by and large. Some of the football I thought was outstanding. Ramsey was the one, showed real personality from the start of the game, literally grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. Some of the combination play between him, kind of Owens in particular, Wilshere, Lacazette as well was fantastic. What we've come to expect at times from Arsenal. They just had too much for CSK, some brilliant attacking play, but as is the case with Arsenal, just developed into kind of a table tennis match at times, committing so many players in the forward areas of the pitch when they give the ball away, so open to the counter-attack. And CSKA had some real opportunities. They scored the away goal. They could have easily got 2 or 3. Almost had double figures, I'd suggest, in terms of shots on target. Musa was on loan from Leicester, some people might remember. Had a really impressive game, high energy player, dynamic player. If he could actually finish, probably showed the reason why he's actually on loan at CSK Moscow. Not a very good finisher, more kind of prolific finisher, better finisher, would have exposed Arsenal. But a typical Arsenal performance, but at the same time, really impressive. The type of performance they needed, and even the atmosphere, bit of singing around the stadium, not the shots to the supporters that you get in the stand, a few smiling faces. So that was all good to see. Really the type of performance that they needed, so I was pleased.
The big talking point of the week obviously was Liverpool and City, and I think initially everybody was of the view that this game is cooked, it's done, it's finished. Is it done?
No, I don't think it's done. Just a couple of small, I think for me, you'd expect Liverpool to go through. I think we all would, but yeah, just in terms of the fact, I think the Henderson suspension for me, we got that yellow card. I thought, oof, he's not available. And now for me, Henderson's a key player at Liverpool in terms of where they are at this moment in their development, in terms of the role that he plays in that holding midfield area. Probably had this conversation before. I don't think they got a natural replacement for him. I know Kevin probably might argue Emre Can to drop into that position. It's a natural fit. Not for me. I think he's got his limitations from a defensive point of view. So I think that's a potential problem in terms of who he drops into that area of the pitch. And obviously Salah, some questions about him, whether he's going to make the starting lineup as well. So I think there is hope for Manchester City, but it's all about Manchester City, the type of performance. Forget about Liverpool, the team they can put on the pitch. It's all about the type of performance Manchester City can deliver. And if they could rewind and kind of replicate the type of performance they gave a week ago against Everton, the first 45 minutes against Everton was as good. I think it was generally acknowledged, this is as good as you're going to see in terms of football they played. They stayed loyal to their team shape, back 4, midfield 3. You can see it already. Ferrandino sitting a bit deeper, Silva, De Bruyne and the front 3. That was front 5, some of the combination play, the patterns of play which they put in place, absolutely phenomenal. And we were just expecting them to transplant that onto the pitch, onto Anfield during the week, and we never saw it. I couldn't believe how we deviated, not just the Sterling thing and Gundogan going in, but in terms of how we flipped that midfield shape. He dropped De Bruyne into an orthodox midfield too alongside Fernandinho, played Silva almost as number 10, and I couldn't understand it. I literally could not understand why he did it.
Explain to us a little bit what is the ideal setup in that midfield three?
Well, we've seen it all season. We know in terms of how they play, centre half split, full-backs get themselves high, Fernandinho drops a little bit deeper, Silva and De Bruyne get themselves in those little inside gullies, a little bit 10-15 yards in advance. They're the areas which is very difficult to pick up. They're off the shoulders of the opposition midfielders. They're too far down the pitch. Centre halves don't want to step in. Full-backs naturally don't want to come in and deal with the media because they've got Sane and Sterling dragging them wide. So it's all premeditated and pre-planned on the training pitch. These positions which they take up, patterns of play, we used to call them as Kev when we were training, but they're so regimented, and they understand so in terms of the positions of the pitch they need to be on, and they work the ball so quickly, 1 and 2 touch, and it's been blowing people away. It really has. And when Guardiola said we're not going to change, this is my philosophy, we take him at his word because the proof's in the pudding. They've been so good at it. They've literally blown people away. So to change it, for me, just being too clever. Why tinker with it in terms of formation and personnel? I still don't understand.
So, we might get Kevin's thoughts on this one as well. So, Trent Alexander-Arnold gets man of the match. Do you think, and I'm not sure, do you think this as well, Kevin, the reason for that is because he's only being pulled in one direction. He doesn't have to worry about the other guy inside him, the inside 9 or whatever, the Silva or the De Bruyne, who would have been playing on the left of those two advanced 10s, let's say. So you've only got Sane on the outside to worry about. You don't have the guy on the inside to worry about. Do you think that was a big factor?
It's a great show, because the difference of playing with a 10 Silva, he operates mainly centrally in that advanced position. So generally speaking, it's responsibility of one of the two centre halves maybe to step in. But you're right, when you play with those two number 8s, generally people will call them, Fernandinho 6, the two advanced 8s, they play in those little pockets a little bit wider. So you're right, they actually entice those fullbacks at times a little bit narrower alongside their centre halves, and even at times actually to go in and think I can actually go and nail him, Silva. And you're right, that opens space up for that big switch to the wide man, who actually they operate as wide as possible for that reason. They want to make those distances as big as possible, and that's why you see those big diagonals hit to Sane and Sterling, and he takes a touch, and he's running at the fullback, as opposed to what you were saying, Alexander-Arnold being able to hold a wider starting position, so when Sane gets the ball, he can get there quicker, possibly force him down the pitch or make physical contact with him before he has that extra 1-2 touches and builds up a head of steam, and he's very difficult to stop at that moment. So you're right, they're the kind of subtleties that I'm talking about, which for me actually disrupted Manchester City's rhythm and meant they couldn't find any kind of tempo to their play till the last 20 minutes, where they actually morphed. I don't know whether it's a subconscious thing or Guardiola did it. They actually finished up with the shape they should have done with Fernandinho, De Bruyne and Silva, and we actually thought we saw a little bit of that kind of interchange of play that we'd seen previously, but it come too late in the game, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing before that.
Personally, I think on Trent Alexander Trent Arnold, Trent Alexander-Arnold, I'll get that name right for you. No, but personally, I think he'd had a lot of stick leading into that game. I think the one thing they looked at, overall, I think when the things that I was reading was he couldn't deal with Wilfried Zaha last weekend in the Crystal Palace game, and I felt that got into his head. And I'm sure Jurgen Klopp must have spoken to him that Leroy Sané probably having a better season overall than Wilfried Zaha, and I think he got into him a little bit as well and said, look, you've got a one-on-one battle here, deal with your man, and that is your only responsibility on the game. And I think that would have got into his mindset, maybe on the Monday, the Tuesday leading into that game. And it's as good a one-on-one showing from a defensive point of view. Kenny was always very, very good on, even if he had to play in a wide area and in the right back position, on a one-on-one situation, getting tight to your man. That was his only responsibility that he had. Maybe something that Kenny's touched on there, not necessarily having to deal with anything else. And I think one-on-one against Wilfried Zaha last weekend, he struggled, whereas I think that was in his mindset, I'm going to do a better job one-on-one defensively.
Well, Kev, you make a great point there, but I feel as if you've got to give credit to the manager there, Klopp, because he would have had a decision to make. Kev said there he had a couple of difficult moments against Zaha, so Klopp had a decision to make. Nathaniel Clyne now is back available, a more experienced player in England international. Temptation would have been surely, I won't take a risk with the youngster, I'll take him out. That would have been understandable. I put the more experienced player, and he didn't. Showed a huge amount of belief in that young player by giving him the jersey and putting him, now you're me man, I have belief in you. He must have felt like 10 foot tall walking onto that pitch, Alexander Arnold, because he would have had his doubts after that Crystal Palace game. He's not going to play me, he's not going to take that risk against Santa. We know how well he's been playing, and he repaid that in absolute bucket loads. Now you flip that to Guardiola's decision in terms of Sterling. We know he's had a difficult reception there the last couple of times he's been there, the atmosphere there, maybe it's affected him a little bit psychologically. I mean, he's in great form of late, but he's made the decision, no, I'm not going to expose him, I'm going to take you out. What's that saying to Sterling? Like, I don't trust you mentally. I'm not sure. Take
that point on, Kenny, right? Like, what does this say about Liverpool going forward? Because nobody thought this was the next natural step. Nobody thought this was the next natural step for Liverpool. So is this, like, is what happened during the week a pointer?
Sorry, Adrian, to win the Champions League, you're saying?
Nobody thought Liverpool were going to beat Manchester City 3-0.
No, but I personally thought they'd win the game, and I thought that if they were going to win the game, it'd be in that manner. Real high-tempo football, really going at them, causing City problems. I personally felt they would win the game. I didn't think 3-0. I think you're right in saying that, but I personally think that Liverpool had as much a chance to win the Champions League as Man City did. So I think they're overpriced in the market.
What sort of a pointer is this then to Liverpool's future? Like, are Liverpool about to become the next dominant force in English football? Is this evidence of that? Or
they're on their way, but they have been for some time. And all the caveats we've thrown in, a bit of a soft as a centre defence kind of goalkeeper. They're a long way to resolving those issues. Van Dijk's come in, and we can't underestimate the impact that he's had. Very impressive the other night, not just his individual play, just in terms of that kind of force of personality we're talking about, communication skills, people, in terms of the effect he's having on people around him, which good players do. They raise their level as well. So we're seeing that across the defensive line. Karius looks playing with a little bit more confidence as well. We know Keita is going to come into the football club. For me, he's going to improve them in that central midfield there. So they're on their way, but I think they have been Liverpool. The signs have been there that they're heading in that direction. They're the ones who are really breaking from the pack in terms of potentially really challenging Manchester City for that title next season. I don't think they're too far away. Like I said, the introduction of Keita, maybe one or two areas of the pitch. There's not too much more though. For me personally, I think that they have to add to that squad. They're very much on their way in terms of challenging. Just
a very quick one from both of you before we wrap on this aspect of it. If you're Barcelona or Real or one of the other contenders, just briefly, who do you rather in the next? Who would you rather get in the final, City or Liverpool?
I think if it was a Barcelona, I think they would much prefer to play against Manchester City. I do. I think City got better players, but I think Liverpool's front three can hurt them all, particularly the way that Barcelona played. Barcelona like to go and press sides. They play a higher line, a little bit different from Guardiola's side, don't get me wrong, but they still play a high line. It's a natural press that's within that side, and Liverpool could hurt Barcelona badly. I think they prefer to play against Man City and go, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a game of football in the middle third of the pitch, whereas you're not going to get exposed. Real Madrid probably a little bit more defensive oriented. I think they're better organised defensively, so they may be able to have the tools to contain Liverpool better than Barcelona.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think both teams playing at their very best. Manchester City and Liverpool, for me still, Manchester City are the strongest team, the most dangerous side, but they are far well below those standards the other evening, Manchester City. And Liverpool are capable. And whereas at the start of this campaign I looked at Liverpool and thought actually they cannot win this competition because of the reasons that I said in terms of the players who've come into the football club and that surge in terms of the quality of football which they're playing. Probably about a month, 6 weeks ago, I looked at Liverpool and thought, yeah, this is a team now that can actually go on and win this competition. So I think both are capable. For me, Manchester City playing at their best, the kind of form that we've seen, are still best equipped to go of the English teams to go and win the competition. Before we wrap, I just want to get your thoughts on the two derbies of the weekend. They're actually difficult enough games to preview, Kenny, and the fact that who knows what team Liverpool is going to put out, who knows what team Manchester City is going to put out for the Manchester derby. The Merseyside derby, Kev, live and off the ball with Nathan and Alan Stubbs tomorrow, but difficult games to preview. I'm actually at the Merseyside derby myself. I'm looking forward to it. It just depends what team Liverpool play. I can't imagine Jurgen Klopp's going to risk Mo Salah. I can't imagine that he's going to. It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't even risk maybe a Firmino, left him out. Solanke will probably come into the game. I think it'll be a bit of a makeshift Liverpool side, and it's totally understandable. There'll be probably a little bit of criticism towards Klopp if he were to change the team, as I do expect. But it's understandable. That the game is the priority against against City on the Tuesday. That's the way it's got to be. So, but
I think Everton have got a chance if there are changes. That's the only way. Everton play with a bit of tempo. The atmosphere at Goodison Park could maybe drive them through. I'd maybe sit on the fence a little bit. I think maybe as an Evertonian, I'd probably look at maybe a draw there. I'd probably say a draw. The other side, I think City will beat Man United on Saturday evening. I think they've got too much for them. That's the way that I'd probably view both games.
You can use that handbag as a cushion there when you're sitting on the fence.
It's not a handbag. It's not a handbag, Adrian.
Handbag.
The Manchester derby, Kenny. Like, I think a lot of teams are going to be looking at what Liverpool did to Manchester City, obviously during the week, as a potential way to sort of try and replicate some of that. But like, Mourinho's more conservative. It's hard to see them bringing that intensity almost to it.
Yeah, but I think it's easy for Cup of the Week, Klopp, for me in terms of team selection. Very little, for me, I'll be putting the same back forward out, Liverpool goalkeeper, keep that the same, make a few tinkers higher up the pitch. I think that's reasonably easy in terms of decisions Klopp has to make. Guardiola's the one for me. I'll be absolutely fascinated to see how he sees it, because even this game of the weekend, as big as it is against Manchester United, he has to be prioritising the second leg against Liverpool. He's got to be almost picking his team now for the team which he wants to start against Liverpool in the second leg, and then is just the team at the weekend accordingly. He has to find a pairing at centre half. For me, I'd be tempted to throw Stones and Laporte against Liverpool next week. They're really exposed in that area of the pitch, and I think if you're going to play them against Liverpool next week, you got to get them together. You got to get the minutes on the pitch. So I'd be thrown down. I'd actually be playing as best I could. Me starting 11 against Manchester United. Trying to start against Liverpool. Yeah, just get them back. Just get it back on track. You know what I mean? Just those patterns of play I'm talking about. Just get them back into the groove again.
Actually attacking the game properly, winning the game, building a bit of momentum might be just the thing they need going into.
Yeah, I think so. Whereas Klopp can think is not such a problem. City, for me, for me, they have to almost get their starting 11 now. And I know if Kompany's going to start against Liverpool, he can play an extra game. He might be the one exception. But I think he has to get as close to his starting 11. I don't think he can tinker with it again at the weekend and again make those 4, 5, 6 changes for the Liverpool game midweek. I think he's got some huge decisions to make at the weekend. Guardiola, far more simple for Klopp, and he's earned the Klopp in terms of the performance a couple of days ago. He's made it a lot easier for himself.
Couple of things before we go, Kenny. I don't know if you've given your take on the most controversial talking point of the week. We know
Kev's bag, innit?
We know
we've done that.
We know Kev's taken this already. Ronaldo, did he mean to hit it roughly where he hit it, or was that a hit and hope?
Oh no, here we go. We'll never know. But what we do know is in terms of he was looking to.
What do you think?
I think he was looking to hit it in that part of the goal.
That's what I think, Kev. That's what I think.
That side of the goal. If you were asking me,
I've at last found a former professional footballer who'll back up my opinion.
Yeah, I think he meant to hit it that side of the goal to the keeper's left.
Yeah.
In terms of where it actually hits the net, how high up the net.
No, I'd agree. That's
similar
all
to the Rooney. Similar to the Rooney volley.
Kenny, if you go for an overhead kick, you look to hit the target. That's all you try to do. Get a good contact and hit
Listen,
the target.
don't rubbish Kenny's opinion. The people spoke during the weekend. We were all in agreement. No, he said it was a hit and hope.
No,
hit and hope.
I'm not saying it's hit and hope. No,
he's just agreed with us, Kev.
You look to get a good contact and hit the target. You don't want to put it in a certain part of the goal. You look to hit the target. That's all you do. No, it's not a hit and hope.
I'll be a bit more precise than that, Kev. I think he actually looked to head for that side of the goal to the keeper's left.
I think
the way he angled his body. I think so. I think he had that amount of control on it that he was looking to hit it to the keeper's left. If you split the goal in two, to that side of the goal. Yeah, similar to the Rooney to an extent as well.
Yeah. Ken.
No.
Honestly.
He's right, Kev.
Right. I was actually playing football with Kenny on Monday, right? And Kenny has never even taken a shot on in his life, whether that's in training.
You see, he just starts this is Trump stuff now. It's just he starts to rubbish.
Exactly. Who needs a friend like that? Who needs a friend like that? I take Conor McGregor.
He's like
Conor McGregor ahead.
He's like Garcia now. He's just like throwing anything that comes at him.
Kevin, finish. I want to hear what he has to say.
There's a lot of relevance to what I'm saying. Somebody who actually knows how to take a shot at goal would know what's being said. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
And who is that person?
Well, someone who's actually shot before at least once in their whole career.
Yeah.
But I fundamentally disagree with that.
I also fundamentally disagree with it.
This comes back to the attitude. If you haven't played to a certain standard, you
rubbish.
can't
You're not a football man, you know, like this rubbish.
You never played. I've never executed an overhead kick. So
Kevin has executed an overhead kick.
It's like talking to Shay, even start talking
I didn't mean it though.
You still executed one.
One last thing before we let you away, lads, because we had a bit of conversation earlier, Kev, I don't know, in between sort of tweeting pictures of your handbag, if you got a chance to watch that a bit earlier, but Kenny was talking about the footage of him. It was a documentary that was made during the 2002 World Cup about the journey to.
I did. I was watching earlier on. Yeah, I remember Kenny singing. I remember Kenny singing on the plane coming back from Iran.
Well, hold that thought. So we're going to just play a small clip of this. This clip starts with on the pitch in Tehran after the playoff. Matty Holland at the full-time whistle. Take a look.
Over the moon, you know, we played really well. Enough on the night. We're really pleased. We worked ever so hard, and throughout the campaign, I think we deserve this. We've done it for ourselves, but we've also done it for the people back home. We're chuffed to bits. The boys, they've worked their nuts off for 4-5 years. We've not got what we deserved over the years, but this certainly makes up for it. I think for Mick as well, he can put the jacket behind him now. He's qualified for a World Cup. Brilliant, what a way to do it as well. You know, all the big names gone out of the Irish team and then young lads breathing through.
Bound for home, it was time to open the champagne at last for the high-flying Irish team.
Well, Lee thought he'd take a trip to World Japan. He played every instrument I got. Like a lad, sure he beat the whole lot. Well, the old church bells will ring. Hell's bells, the old church choir will sing. Hell's fire, they all turned out to say farewell.
And down below on the ground, the singing had long since started as the Stay Awake All Night fans sang songs of welcome to their homecoming heroes.
How was that song?
The Big Strong Man, was it?
Was it?
The reaction, see the lads' faces, Kevin, when I started singing as if turning.
Steve Finnan was like, oh my God.
It wasn't just Steve Finnan, let's be honest. Oh my God, horrible. I've
heard that lots. Kenny's actually very good. The crack was 90 in the Isle of Man as well.
Oh, is it?
He knows the whole words to that song as
That's going to be the next outside broadcast, Kev. I think that's, you know.
Yeah.
Did you notice when we were coming through the airport at the end there, did you notice I was hanging it, W.H. Smith bag, old school. There's no man bag draped across my shoulder there. Just wedge everything you can into those plastic bags, carrier bags.
Kev, been a pleasure as always.
Go on, all the best,
Take
lads.
it easy. Good luck. John, you're welcome.
Adrian, how
you just
doing?
appeared from the gods.
Owen. I've watched 9 hours of golf, lads.
Good.
So I'm pretty tired.
That's why you're here.
Actually, I just couldn't stop. It's the first time I've ever watched a full round on day one of one person. It was like...
Were you grazing? Were you eating biscuits?
Oh, completely grazing, obviously.
Yeah, no grazing whatsoever.
Business.
Just cups of tea.
Business.
No,
lockdown.
No taking.
How did he manage to do that? I don't know. But like...
Discipline.
When it comes to...
Jordan Speed style discipline.
When it comes to selected groups on the Thursday, it's like one of the most... the least appealing part of the Masters, despite the fact that it's still quite appealing. But yesterday, Tiger, I'm sure it was one of the most watched selected groups on a Thursday of all time.
Yeah, I was watching that red button, which is great because you don't have all these features that they sometimes do. So I was just watching Woods in kind of peace until Rory started. And Woods was a little bit erratic, but you can't really blame him. 3 years since he had a Masters appearance, and I think he did very well to get a 73. He made a really good bogey actually on 12, a putt that went in, and then he had a couple of birdies coming home. So I think at 73, I think it's understandable that he'd be a little bit off. I think it's a miracle he's actually there competing at this stage, at the Masters. So
in some ways, John, is it like people tend to talk about Tiger Woods about the ultimate glory days where he couldn't hit a shot wrong, but in some ways was what he was playing yesterday almost more typical of what Tiger Woods is about in terms of not always being 100% off the tee, but having the capacity to actually make amends once it goes wrong.
Yes, and people got to remember that he hasn't won a major in 10 years. He's 42 years of age now. It's not what it was in 2000, 2001. So I think he did very well to come home the way he did. If you're a little bit off at Augusta, there's just so much talent out there. There's such a depth of talent. And we saw that yesterday with the amount of good rounds we had. I think there were 20 players under par. So Jordan Spieth, 66. Jordan, welcome Dermot. Jordan Spieth, 66. In 2015, he shot 64 and then 66, and he was 5 shots clear at halfway, and it was over.
What's happened is putting, John, of late, of the last year or so, it seems to have just gone to pieces. And there was a comment from him this week saying over the last couple of weeks he's found the magic. It's back. He said his putting stroke is back, which I suppose is the most frightening thing of all, because he gets his putting going. I'm guessing it's only going to be one winner if he can hold him out the pussy.
I think it's just good memories. Kenny, I mean, he turned up at his first Masters, was tied second. Then he won, as I said, easily with an 18 under par total. Then he blew a 5-shot lead, and Danny Willett won, and then
I remember that,
last year he was 11. So I just think everything for me with Jordan Spieth is about winning that Open last year, when he nearly blew it against Matt Kuchar, and then he recovered to win the Open. He's won 3 of the 4 Grand Slams, and I think having blown the Masters the way he did, I think if he'd blown the Open last year, I think he'd definitely have mental scars. But now I think he just gets positive memories. He walks up to the first tee after coming up Magnolia Lane, and I just think he just, I call him Will Spieth, because he's got that competitive drive to will the ball into the hole, and he has an X factor that I haven't seen since Tiger Woods in his pomp, that you just know that Jordan Spieth can conjure things that other golfers can't, and the only other golfer really in the field that I can see conjuring something over the next few days is Rory.
Jordan Spieth obviously leads the way on 6 under par. He's 2 shots clear. Tony Finau, who many thought wasn't even going to get to the starting line, incredibly, he's very much in the mix alongside Matt Kuchar on 4 under par, and it's another shot back to the rest of the field, which includes our own Rory McIlroy. And I'm delighted to say, as John mentioned, we are joined on the line by Dermot Gillece of the Sunday Independent. Good morning to you, Dermot, and thanks for taking our call. Needless to say, we kick things off with chat about Tiger Woods. Showed some of the Tiger that we've kind of come to know and love-ish. He hasn't played himself out, Dermot, is maybe the key point here.
No, I mean, 73 wasn't bad, considering he didn't play well. I mean, let's get that out of the way first. You know, I mean, it was an acceptable comeback, I imagine, from his point of view. I mean, it must have seemed a bit strange to him. I mean, he hadn't played the Masters since 2015, and he's not quite competitive yet at that level, I imagine. But still, I would expect him to be in the mix. I mean, I would certainly expect him to make the cut, which is an achievement in itself.
Yeah, what are you expecting about Jordan Spieth? We've just had a little bit of a conversation about him as well, and like, is it 7 consecutive rounds he's led? Is that a record? I think I heard one of the commentators make mention of it yesterday. This guy is absolutely incredible, and on 6 under par, Dermot, I mean, there was some talk in terms of the previews that the winning score was going to be maybe 9 or 10. He's already more than halfway there.
Yeah, I mean, that was an astonishing finish yesterday by any standards. What I saw at the 18th, that bogey, I mean, it's hard to imagine any other player having the capacity to conjure up that sort of a finish. I mean, he was nowhere. He was totally out of it after his drive, buried it left. Can only pitch out onto just on the edge of the fairway, actually. Didn't even make the fairway. And then he has something like 240, I think. But Paul McGinley described it extremely well, I thought. You know, that his course management was unbelievable in that situation, in that he had the presence of mind to figure out how he was going to make no worse than a 5 there, you know. And we saw the third shot pulled left of the green, but it was left rather than right. He'd have had no chance from the right, and from the left, I mean, he just made the most beautiful up and down for a bogey. It must have been hugely satisfying for him.
Yeah, for sure. And when that putter's on fire, Dermot, there's no stopping Jordan Spieth. And it almost gets to the point here, and I'm not sure if you agree with this, where the rest of his game, those unbelievable recovery shots like on 18 yesterday, is there a sense that the rest of his game gets underrated to a certain extent because he's so bloody good with the putter when he's on?
Well, that's true up to a point. But, I mean, if you consider from a European perspective, I mean, the great winners at Augusta, I mean, I'm thinking of players like Seve and Langer and Olazabal and Faldo, and those guys, like, I mean, they've 9 Masters between them. Now, the key in their game was pitching and putting. I mean, Langer kept repeating this. I mean, anybody asked him, you know, what's the key at Augusta? And most people talk about the putting. But he talked about pitching, because you're going to miss screens. And Langer was a wonderful long putter, but he was also a terrific pitcher and chipper of the ball. And you look at the great players. Tiger had it. I mean, what do we remember most about Tiger's 4 Masters wins? It's the pitch into the hole at the 16th in 05, you know, that wonderful shot where the ball stops on the lip of the hole and then drops in. We tend to forget, there's so much emphasis on the speed of the greens and the difficulty of putting on those greens, that we tend to forget that the real key is pitching and chipping. And Jordan Spieth has that in spades. I mean, we saw it, as I say, last night, particularly with the ease with which he pitched, 18 inches from the hole at the last. I think that's it's an overlooked, sometimes overlooked part of his game because of the quality of his putting. But he really has a wonderful short game, and he's not bad from tee to green either. You know, I mean, it's not as if he scratches it around like Ben Crenshaw used to do. He's a decent player tee to green, but he has a wonderful, wonderful short game.
Yeah, Rory, there's shades of Rory in that, obviously, John, as well. And there was a good snapshot of him yesterday in 13. He goes along with his approach, makes a wonderful up and down for a birdie, and cracks on. Like, I wonder from both of you, Dermot, John, like whether, because the constant conversation about Rory is that his A game, nobody can beat his A game when it's on. And I kind of wondered from the evidence yesterday whether both of you thought this was his A game or his B game.
No, what I thought about Rory was that, well, first of all, it was his best round since 2011 when he nearly won, when he shot that 80 in the final round. I think he played very well. He didn't really make anything happen, but he played the par 5s well. I think he was 3 under par for the par 5s. He missed a couple of putts, missed a putt on 6, missed a putt on 10. His driving was excellent. But then I was really impressed with his putting down the stretch. That up and down on 13, he said it was his best up and down all year. He made a good par save on 16. He made a very good par save in 17. And a bit like Jordan, he was left of the flag in 18 and then got up and down. And I think he'd be very happy with his round. And I think it'd give him a lot of confidence, especially with that putting after work he did with Brad Faxon, that he can go out and do something today. They're both out about after 3 o'clock Irish time, and I think the later starters got the better of it yesterday, and I think that Rory's proximity to Jordan Spieth is going to be very important at the end of the day.
Right, in that he needs to be near him.
Needs to be near him.
His coattails,
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think, Dermot?
Yeah, I think a very important element of Rory's game yesterday was that he'd only one bogey, which was on the 7th. In the past, Rory has been hurt badly by stupid mistakes, dare I say. I agree that he's up against it against Spieth, but it's a very interesting contrast between the two players. I mean, there's no question but that Rory is the far superior player tee to green. But as I was saying earlier, I mean, I wonder how much of an advantage can he make that at Augusta. He can certainly make it a big advantage on the par 5s. But yes, I mean, Spieth really kick-started his effort yesterday with an eagle at the 8th, which is one of the more difficult par 5s. So I think at the moment, the way Spieth is putting, that he has a clear edge even over Rory because of the emphasis that Augusta places on the short game, on pitching, chipping, and putting.
Yeah, well, I would think that obviously there's a lot of other players in the loop. Matt Kuchar, model of consistency at Augusta, maybe has lacked the bottle to win possibly major tournaments. I would agree with
that, yeah.
4 under par. Tony Finau, that was a miracle story.
Yeah.
I think he just played with freedom after that ankle injury to finish on 4 under par. Patrick Reed has been playing well. He's 3 under. Hao Tong Lee, what a story. Masters debut, playing once again with a carefree attitude. Hao Tong Lee, 3 under par. Cabrera Bello, 3 under. Adam Hadwin, who's been playing well from Canada, 3 under par. Henrik Stenson, never really had a good Masters record. I don't think he's had a top 10, but of course he's a major champion now in 3 under. And then Phil Mickelson, Ricky Fowler, 2 under par. They both finished very well last night. Dustin Johnson was disappointing. Justin Thomas, who's probably been the informed player in the world, 2 over par, he was disappointing. And then of course, how can we forget Sergio Garcia doing a tin cup on it?
We haven't. We've been debating it all morning.
You know, so at 13, what the Masters can give it, they can take it away.
Yeah. But the Finau thing is very interesting, and I saw him speaking to Scott Van Pelt afterwards and saying that the injury, the pain, was on a 10 on a 1 to 10 scale just the day beforehand, obviously, when he dislocates the ankle, and that it actually just focused him a little bit more, that he kind of had to think suddenly about the course a hell of a lot more because he wanted to think about anything except for that excruciating ankle, which I thought was very, very interesting. So he could certainly be a contender if he keeps this up, as long as the pain doesn't remove that focus from it. But there's just one other thing I want to pick you up on, Dermot, and it is the question about the par 5s, because it has been a huge thing, particularly when it comes to Tiger. You look at his record down through the years on the par 5s, and it's essentially what made him so dominant at Augusta during his pomp. And like, what do you think in terms of pin positions? I wonder, could the par 5s become more of an advantage for Rory McIlroy, as you've already outlined, over the next couple of days? Are the pin positions going to get easier, where this could become a big advantage for somebody who hits it longer off the tee?
Well, I mean, length off the tee has always been an advantage at Augusta. I mean, it was there with Nicklaus, who won there 6 times, and if you look, and you alluded to Tiger and how far he hit the ball. I mean, during the 1990s, I mean, himself and John Daly were the only 2 players who were hitting the ball over 300 yards, driving it over 300 yards. So there's no doubt that it is an advantage, particularly at the par 5s. But the pin placements are fairly predictable. I mean, we have a good idea even now in the finishing holes like that, where the pin's going to be on 16, for instance. It's going to be back left, and on 18 it'll be forward left, and stuff like that. So the players know what they're going to get. But what I thought was particularly interesting listening to Rory last night was that he was, now he's played every year at Augusta since 2009, and even at that, he said he was amazed at the difference in the greens on Thursday as opposed to the practice days. And I was smiling to myself because Nick Faldo used to talk about that you practice at Augusta for, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and next thing you go out Thursday morning, and the first thing you notice is there's a sort of a brown hue off the greens that you hadn't seen earlier in the week. Whatever they do on Wednesday night, and I suspect is that they suck moisture out of the soil and just firm them up to the extent that they're maybe the whole course is a couple of shots more difficult than it was during practice. But I thought it was particularly interesting, as I say, because the first thing you think about it at Augusta in terms of players challenging to win it is experience, except obviously in the case of Spieth in 15. But even with experience that Rory has, he was still shocked by this, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, and there's no way, I mean, on that point, there's no way they're going to let Jordan Spieth win this tournament, lads, on 24 under par. Like, the organisers are not going to allow that to happen.
Well, I mean, I think bad weather is coming on Saturday. Thunderstorms and a lot of wind as well. So that's in the forecast. Dermot will know better than that. But yeah, it's interesting. In 2015, he, as I said, 64. He followed with a 66. It was over. But in the year he lost to Danny Willett, he followed a 66 with a 74. Last year he had 2 75s. I think Jordan was a little bit at times. He was a little bit out of position yesterday, and he can be a little bit jumpy. We saw that at the Open when he really had the Open in the bag and then nearly contrived to throw it away and then regained it and played brilliantly to win. So I don't think it's over yet, but I think a lot will depend on what Jordan Spieth. He really kind of controls the tournament at the moment. But a lot will depend. If he doesn't play well today, it'll let a lot of players back in. And I think if somebody around 300 par can shoot 67, 68, I think it'll make it very difficult for those over par.
Yeah, his card wasn't without its flaws, Dermot, as well. I don't know if that gives a bit of hope to the rest of the field, but just on the evidence of day one, have you changed your thinking, or what are you thinking now in terms of who's going to win this thing?
Well, I mean, to be honest, although Spieth was he was tied third in Houston, I really didn't expect what I saw yesterday. I really didn't. I fancied Rory. To be honest, I thought Justin Thomas would be a very strong contender. And I thought Tiger would possibly do a little better than he did. But I think Spieth has changed everything. If he continues to putt as he does, I mean, I love the reference to him being jumpy. It describes him perfectly. That sometimes he can lose control of situations, which is really strange given how strong his course management generally is. But I think if he continues putting as he did yesterday, I mean, it's very difficult to see him being beaten, because, as I said earlier, it's not just putting; it's allied to a wonderful short game generally, and generally at Augusta, that's an irresistible combination generally.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, enjoy it over the weekend. Dermot, thanks a million for taking our call.
Thank you.
Dermot Gillece of the Sunday Independent there. John, what are you thinking of the evidence of day one?
Well, I was all about Rory yesterday in the preview, and I'm still about Rory. Rory hasn't got it going yet. I think there'll be one of the rounds when Rory gets it going, and if he can limit the mistakes the rest of the time, he's driving the ball so well that I think he might be able to shoot at 66, 65 in one of the remaining 3 rounds, and that could be enough.
I guess the rain tomorrow the timing of the rain is going to be absolutely crucial, because obviously Spieth and you'd imagine Rory as well are going to be going out quite late in the day. Does that actually, so say hypothetically we go into tomorrow and Spieth and Rory are joint leaders, they'll be the last group out. Does that is that working in Rory's favour, or does it work in Jordan Spieth's favour because he's such a good putter? Like, does he prefer the greens just being like marble floors because he likes everybody else getting screwed over by them, whereas he gets screwed over less by them?
I think if the rain comes, I think first of all, look, it's only one round. I think, there's so many talented players there that the whole story could flip again. We don't know yet. I mean, but if it is a case with Spieth and McIlroy in the final group on Saturday, I think ball striking actually becomes more important in the match play situation, because if, like we saw with Sergio Garcia and Justin Rose last year, if you keep striping the ball down the middle of the fairway, it does put doubts into the player's mind. And that's what we saw when Jordan Spieth blew it against Willett. He was saving birdies and par all the time with his putting, but eventually that malfunctioned. So I think the long game does matter in a more head-to-head situation.
Yeah, it must be intimidating if you're going up against McIlroy though, and I know Spieth doesn't have that mental weakness, clearly, as you've already outlined. The Open last year really proved that. But just seeing him absolutely smash it off the tee.
It's PlayStation stuff.
It is. Yeah. And the crowd going wild for him, and he's going 50 yards ahead of you. Okay, 50 yards is an exaggeration when it comes to Jordan Spieth, but in some cases it could happen. And if you didn't have the mental strength of somebody like Jordan Spieth, you're looking at this guy's driving and you're like, shit, I cannot compete with this.
Yeah, but also with Rory, every time Rory misses an opportunity, like the 10th yesterday, the hardest holes in the golf course, and he had a short enough putt for a birdie and he didn't make it, that puts doubts in his mind. That's why I was so impressed with this finish.
But John, could you not flip that round? You're talking about maybe psychologically, potentially McIlroy putting the squeeze on Spieth in a head-to-head situation, driving at 40, 50 yards, how that can crunch an opponent. But likewise, you could flip it in terms of Spieth. If he's hitting, not finding fairways, but constantly getting around the green, chipping and putting, psychologically the damage that can do to someone like a McIlroy who's constantly hitting fairways, making the greens, but just can't shake this fella. You just can't shake him. He's not striking the ball as long as you, he's not as accurate as you, but you're still a shot behind him. Yeah. I mean, that can damage you as well.
You're feeling perfect almost because your striking is so good.
Yeah, exactly.
You're scoring worse than
but this fella's scratching his ways round. He's somehow finding those putts continuing. I would imagine that kind of psychologically can damage you as well, just as easily.
He had 5 of the row yesterday in the back 9, and I think already for the field, correctly as you say, Kenny, it's already in people's heads. So in a way, it is up to Jordan Spieth to decide how this is going to go in terms of halfway.
I really hope he doesn't it's
don't run away with it.
Exactly. Now that might sound in hindsight when
we want the drama.
You've got to have a bit of drama.
I don't think there's too many good players there, John. I think it's an amazing field, isn't it, in terms of the strength, the quality. You can generally pick a half a dozen, but this year you could have 15, 20 players, like in terms of the quality in the field. Would you agree, or more so than most years?
It's hard to come from behind at the Masters. I don't think it's been done. I don't think somebody has come, I think, from outside the top 10 on the final day since 1959. So it is one of these courses that is hard to chase. Whereas I think some courses that people don't play that often, you might have stranger results. So I would agree with you. There is a lot of talent, a lot of great players on 3 under par there. Like Henrik Stenson, who's won a major championship. Matt Kuchar is a solid professional. Patrick Reed has been knocking on the door. Phil and Ricky, either of them could shoot 66 today and be 8 under par, and Jordan Spieth could shoot 73 and he'd be 5 under. So we just don't. It's a little bit too early to say, but the way the thing is beginning to evolve, we've seen this story before.
Tell me, Paul Casey's still in with it.
I actually, because in this 4 hours of just watching Woods, they were showing Casey as well, and he was all over the shop, unfortunately. So your money's done. Your money's done, Kenny.
I was literally just going to say, Kenny,
I'm giving you one of my names. That's it. I'm not giving you any more.
Striking the ball well.
I put him in my office 3 as well for 100 to 1. I had Paul Casey included.
John's killing me there.
John, thanks a million for coming in.
Okay, lads.
Great stuff. Really looking forward to it over the weekend. I have to say, I'm going to be glued to the TV for the next few days. But that was enough to further whet the appetite for the weekend at the Masters. Few comments coming into us here on the football. We were talking about, I asked the question whether Real Madrid or Barcelona would rather Liverpool or Man City in the next round. Jack Lord Oatkin on Twitter says that we're all being a bit presumptuous. He says it's not out of the realms of possibility that Manchester City can do a Liverpool in the second leg. He says it's not over yet. And DB says, please don't jinx it. It's only half time for a team with numerous injuries. Thomas Dawson in touch say, great watch and listen on the morning commute. Nice one, lads. So that's pretty much it from the comments for today. John, thanks a million for coming into us.
Okay, Adrian.
Kenny
Enjoy the golf, lads.
Thanks a million for coming in. Pleasure as always.
Yeah,
you'll be back to us again sometime.
I will.
Good man. Enjoy the golf over the weekend. There is some breaking news that we want to bring you this morning. We'd spoken a bit earlier about the Conor McGregor situation that had been unfolding overnight in New York City. Well, Conor McGregor has been charged with 3 counts of assault and 1 count of criminal mischief pertaining to the damage caused to that bus at the Barclays Centre in New York last night. It's been confirmed with the NYPD from our Adrian Finnegan of 98FM News has been speaking to NYPD this morning, so that is confirmation of that news. We spoke to Niall McGrath, who's in New York a little bit earlier, if you want to check that out to get all the details around exactly what is happening with that. Before we leave you, I want to play you a short clip. Stephen Hunt was on the show yesterday. He was on with Keith Andrews on the Keith Andrews show, Kenny, which I'm sure you're a fan of every Thursday from 12:30.
Yeah, indeed.
Stephen Hunt was on with him yesterday talking about his love for Tiger Woods.
Moving on to the Masters, where we aren't, obviously we are sat in Dublin, you're in Rosslare, we are not in Augusta, just to cement that. What are you expecting? You expected me to ask you about Tiger Woods. Just put it into context how obsessed you are with Tiger Woods and how excited you are about seeing him hopefully contending.
Yeah, listen, I love all sports, but obviously Tiger Woods in golf is a major impact in my life to a certain degree, because you watch sport to create memories, you watch sport to try and have someone to inspire to and how you to behave in a sporting manner. And obviously on the golf course, he was very competitive, he was ruthless, and took that from golf right the way across to football when I was playing, and brought it into that sport, and obviously wanted to do the best every time I entered the pitch.
It's hard to underestimate just how big a deal it is going to be if Tiger can somehow force his way into contention over the weekend. Even the very fact we can say that. 6 months ago, he was at the President's Cup as a vice-captain and was really talking to the media about, actually, I'm having to consider that I may never play again. I'm struggling to get out of bed in the morning. I'm lying on the floor having to ask my daughter to go and get the physio to give my back a rub so I can actually get up. That is the state he was in. To go from there to contending just a couple of weeks ago, to going back into the Masters as second, third favourite, it's already one of the great stories, but it'll be the greatest comeback sport has ever seen if Tiger can win a major again, but if he can win it this week, which really isn't beyond the realms of possibility. Last 2 tournaments, he's been tied for the lead. Last time at Arnold Palmer Invitational, he was 1 off the lead with 5 to play, had a bit of a collapse, which would worry you. The only thing that you kind of have to reimagine is, and one of the great things, I don't know, Stephen, if you've been doing it, watching back some of the old Masters on the Masters app where you can watch the final round, you forget just how dominant he was. Now, maybe he's lost some of that aura around him, but if he is there, does he go to another level? Which I don't think we're really considering, that actually, maybe if he is in contention on the back nine, suddenly he goes, this feels familiar, and he just kicks on. And if he does, it's going to be the best TV you've seen all year.
Yeah, that is the lads indulging themselves in some good golf stuff on the Keith Andrews show yesterday, every Thursday from 12:30. OTBAM, by the way, is brought to you this morning with Air, the home of Air Sport. You can get yourself amazing live sporting content, including all 4 days of the Masters, free with Air Broadband, so go and check that out. It is 9:27 on this Friday morning. We should be long done, but we had such amazing guests to bring you this morning. We wanted to stick with you. We had Kenny Cunningham with you this morning. Kevin Caban unexpectedly joined us as well, and I've just been hearing from John Duggan and Dermot Gillece there on the golf as well. Just to confirm that news that we brought you just before that clip, Conor McGregor has been charged with 3 counts of assault and 1 count of criminal mischief by police in New York. He was taken into custody. He presented himself at a police station in Brooklyn. There had been reports, indeed quotes from Dana White yesterday saying that an arrest warrant was out for Conor McGregor. It appears that that wasn't the case, and it's sort of head-scratching as to why he would say such a thing when it's blatantly not true. But Conor McGregor presented himself to police in Brooklyn, and he's due to appear in court in New York later today. One further addendum to that as well. There's been that's been confirmed with the NYPD this morning, and a second man has also been charged. Cian Cowley, another MMA fighter from Dublin, a 25-year-old, also one charge of assault, of criminal assault, and one charge of mischief. So that is the latest. In that case, we'll bring you all the very latest on that. We're back in the air, obviously, from 7 o'clock this evening, so we'll bring you all of that. We're going to be glued to the golf as well over the weekend. I think we can bring you some footage of the incident at the Barclays Centre in New York last night, certainly in the last 24 hours. You can see it here on your screens, where Conor McGregor and his entourage get access to the Barclays Centre. This is the team which includes Michael Chiesa and I think Artem Lobov, only if I'm correct, that had boarded that bus. And obviously there had been some sort of a row that had broken out previously between Lobov and Khabib. You can see McGregor. Yeah, so apologies for the language there. Yeah, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. We should see how events unfold. The hand truck, it turns out, was just a little wheelbarrow.
No, it wasn't.
It's a vertical wheelbarrow. You know, the ones that you would stack stuff up on.
Yeah.
So it's like
that's what a hand
by that. I thought it was like I thought a hand truck was one of those ones, you know, like the pump action one that sort of has two forks on it. And you would slide it under a pallet.
How the hell would he be able to pick one of those?
That's exactly what it was. Was exactly my point. We had this conversation before we came on air, and I said to you, "Oh, is that the one with the two pronged forks?" You were like, "Yeah, that's it."
No, a hand truck
doesn't have any pronged forks.
A hand truck is the thing you like put, boxes of tea bags on and you wheel around. I used to have a hand truck when I was working in hotels down in Clarny when I was.
Its notoriety is up there now with the Jiffy bag.
Yeah, true.
What the hell is a Jiffy bag? And then it turns out Jiffy bag is just a bleeding brown envelope.
A hand truck is still a heavy thing to pick up. But obviously Conor McGregor's got such big muscles that he can lift up.
Anybody can pick that up. It's flinging it at the bus, I guess, and with that force.
He's the strongest man in the world, the best man in the world.
Oh, and I mean, I enjoy every Friday, but I particularly enjoyed this morning.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was all me.
That's the sort of ego you're dealing with around here. Enjoy your golf over the weekend. Enjoy the derbies. If you're listening to them or watching them or whatever you're doing over the weekend, thanks a million for joining us this morning. We are going to play out with a piece that Eoin did yesterday, I think, Eoin. Avonmore Protein Milk is teaming up with the Irish international and Leinster rugby star Joey Carberry and the Irish sprinter Ciara Neville for its new You've Got This campaign. Avonmore Protein Milk, inspiring others by showcasing what it takes to make it in high performance sport. You can check out our piece with Joey Carberry over on youtube.com/off the ball. But here's how Eoin got on with Ciara Neville. Good morning.
All right, I'm delighted to say we've got one of Ireland's most promising athletes in studio with us now, Ciara Neville. A very good afternoon to you. How are things?
Good, thank you.
I want to start by talking about 2018. Like, it's a weird one to start on because we're already a quarter of the way, or a third of the year, I should say, through the year. But it's already been a huge year for you so far, and it's only going to get bigger for you on a personal level as well as on an athletics level.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a busy year so far, but there's definitely a lot more to come because I'm sitting my leaving cert in June. And then I have a big outdoor season ahead of me with the World Under-20s in July and then maybe the European Seniors in August as well.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a moment. But the leaving cert obviously is a huge task for everybody, never mind somebody who's actually competing at the highest level in athletics and trying to qualify for all these events that are coming up later on this year. How have you found that so far?
Yeah, it took a bit of time to get used to it, but I just kind of tried to keep the routine the same so that I'd get used to it, the same thing every day, so it kind of becomes second nature then.
What is the routine?
I go to school in the morning and then I stay in school until 6 for after school study, and then I come home, have my dinner, and then I go training for 7:30, and then I stay there for about 2 hours, and then I come home and get a bit more food and then go to bed. Basically, that's it.
It's a pretty rigorous schedule. Yeah. Not much time for anything else, I'd imagine then.
No, not really. Well, I get Saturdays off training, so I get to catch up with my friends then, so it's nice.
So what is the plan? I know you've probably been asked this about 200 times in the last week, I would say. I can certainly remember leaving cert year, everybody's asking, what's the plan, and everybody seems like they should have a plan, and I guess to a certain extent there's pressure on that as well, that you need to have your CAO in order if that's what you're going for, or if you're going potentially across to the States. I'm not sure what your plan is.
Yeah, at the moment I'm thinking of doing sports science or PE teaching in UL, because I'd like to stay at home, so hopefully it all goes to plan and that's the way I'll go.
So you'll go into it as, I guess, a full-time student, is it? Presumably UL will be kind enough for the scholarship as well.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, that will all go to plan. But yeah, I'll study full time for 4 years, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Do you think it's in vogue at the moment for Irish athletes of your age to go and stay at home rather than go across to the States?
Yeah, definitely. Like, some people go to the States, but then they also end up not liking it, so then they come home. But I feel like maybe more middle distance people go there than sprinters.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point, because I suppose the last person we were talking to about this in studio was Thomas Barr, who was obviously around UL all the time. And I guess it's not even just the idea of staying at home and that, it's the idea of staying grounded, as in he gets to partake in his hobbies, he's big into his motorsport, and he gets to train when he wants, and he's still with his friends from home. And I guess, as you mentioned, there is that element of the middle distance that go to the United States, but there is also the element of staying grounded and thinking to yourself, well, actually, do you know what, the setup in UL is really, really good. I don't actually need to overthink this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, having UL so close is so handy, because I already trained there anyways, and then I'd be at home and then be able to keep training with my coach, so everything would be pretty close together. So
you've already done the indoors. What's the big elements in the calendar this year? You've got Finland, and hopefully you've got Germany coming up later in the year as well.
Yeah, definitely the main aim this year is the World Under-20 Championships, which are on in Finland in the middle of July. So I hope to get the qualifying time for that, which is around 11:70. So if I run close to my PB of 11:52, I should be definitely in with a chance to qualify for that. And then later on the summer in August is the European Senior Championships, so that will definitely be a big prospect for the relay team to go. So we'll see what happens then.
What do you think is your best event at the moment?
I think 100 metres or 60 metres.
Okay, so like, I know that it is essentially the equivalent of each other, but like, obviously there's a 40 metre difference. It's a stupid question to ask what's the difference there, but in terms of being a top level 60 metre sprinter, is it very different when it comes to 100 metres? Obviously there's an element of a little bit more stamina, or is the crossover pretty much the same? The best indoor sprinters at 60 metres will translate perfectly to the outdoors when it comes to 100 metres?
It kind of depends on the physique of the athlete. Like, Usain Bolt never does 60 metres because he's a really tall athlete, and then some 60 metre specialists wouldn't be as good as 100 metres. But I think for 60 metres, like, just getting your start right kind of sets you up for the race because it's shorter. And then the taller athletes like myself would kind of progress more in the 100 metres because it's longer and our strides kind of are longer, so the longer distance suits us better.
Okay, I see. So would you potentially look at Usain Bolt and his running technique? I'm sure you've perfected running technique at this point, but I guess you've just mentioned him there. When it comes to a taller athlete, can you take inspiration or even just lessons from the way he runs?
Yeah, definitely. Like, he's so relaxed in the way he runs, which is definitely something that I aspire to be like, because it makes you just stress free and you run better then when you're like that. So I definitely would, yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I was looking at then as well, because I'm glad you brought it up, that 100 metres might be your strongest goal, is the Olympics. I mean, Tokyo is obviously coming down the horizon, but by the time this summer rolls around, and Berlin will be almost, I guess, 18 months to 24 months away from Tokyo, it's surely not only a goal of yours but a dream of yours at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Since I was younger, the Olympics was always the goal and what I wanted to be, the dream. So yeah, now that it's getting closer, it's kind of getting down to the hard work and just doing the best I can to see what can happen.
Yeah, and I guess with Tokyo as well, I'm not sure if you'd agree with this, but there might be an element of a free pass about it, because just looking at the 100 metres final in 2016 in Rio, just the ages of the gold, silver and bronze medalists, 24 years old, 26 years old, 29 years old. So I know we don't want to talk about Tokyo just yet. We should definitely not be talking about 2024, but I can't help myself right here. So you're talking in your mid-20s for 2024. I know you're probably not looking that far down the line at that point, but there is probably something in the back of your mind that you're thinking, come my mid-20s, that's when I need to be hitting my career best times, not just a current personal best.
Yeah, I think most sprinters peak when they're in their mid-20s anyway, so that will definitely be a big year for me. But I think just take each cycle as it comes, so we'll get over 2020 first and then on to the next cycle and see what happens then.
A final question then, what's your general sense of where Irish sprinting is at? Because you mentioned middle distance runners when I brought up college, and I guess Ireland's been more well known on the track for middle distance and long distance over the past 20-30 years in terms of medalists. We've obviously had Dermot over the last 10-15 years. Is Irish sprinting on the way up?
Yeah, I definitely think it's on the way up. Like, even in recent months, like, you can tell that the sprinting is definitely improving and almost taking over the middle distance, if not it is. So I think, yeah, and the organisation of sprinting is definitely on the way up, and there's definitely more opportunities there for everyone to get better.
Well, Ciara Neville, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Very best of luck with the leaving cert, first of all, and with the rest of the year. I hope it goes very, very well for you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
a key difference between James Ryan.
OTB AM. In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.